for Tuesday, May 8th is now in session. Just a reminder, please make sure your cell phones are off, and if you need to have any conversations, please take them outside of the room. In conformance with the open meeting law, I'm informing you that this meeting is being live streamed. There's not a lot of people in the room, so I expect that you will keep your testimony either in support or in opposition to the subject. And if there's somebody else who's speaking ahead of you who has already stated your concern, that you will put your name and address on the record. Mr. Fortune?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning. The first order of business is the approval of the hearing minutes of March 6, 2018, March 22nd, 2018, and March 27th of 2018. I need a motion.
Motion to approve the minutes is written.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Calling the first case for extension, calling BOA 415915, 175 Howard Avenue. Is Howard Avenue here?
Yes.
Right up here, sir. Name and address for the record, please.
Excuse me? Hugo Correa, 175 Howard Ave.
Please speak up.
Hugo Correa, 175 Howard Ave.
Okay. Please tell us why you're here.
Looking for an extension to the variance that was on the property last year.
When was it issued?
It was issued 2 years ago, I believe, and it expired in June of last year.
So it expired in June of last year?
Yes.
So I suspect that then your relief has expired too.
I thought I had.
You have to do the extension within 2 years of when the relief was granted.
What I was told at the building department was that if I asked for an extension a year before a year was completed, that it expired, I could still apply for an extension.
We have an expiration, well, June 23rd, 2015 is when you were approved.
And have there been any extensions subsequent?
We don't have anything here.
There have been no extensions.
Okay, so it applied last June. It expired last June, though, right?
July 20th?
Yeah. So I wouldn't be able to.
2017 it expired.
What I was told was that I had one. Since it hadn't been 1 year since it expired, I was still able to extend because we bought this property from another company, and.
No, the relief is there for 2 years from the date, give or take, but 6 months off is, or almost a year off is, the relief just isn't there anymore for you. So may I have a motion to deny?
Motion to deny the request.
Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. You'll have to reapply, okay?
Calling the next case, calling BOA 570-1695, Major Michael J. O'Connor Way. Name and address for the record, please.
For the record, Marvin Senior of Goulston Stores. Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. As you may recall, I'm here on behalf of South Boston Neighborhood Development Corporation and Carrot House Communities, Inc. As you may recall, the applicant has been designated by the BHA to develop 46 income-restricted housing units in South Boston. Given the complexity of the project, it's taken longer than anticipated to procure the state federal approvals as well as project financing. So we're here today seeking a 2-year extension of the zoning relief that was granted on May 31st, 2016.
So it's within the time frame. May I have a motion, please?
Motion to extend.
Is there a second?
Second.
Well, we extended for 1 year or 2 years?
Extended for 1 year.
1 year extension.
Thank you.
Motion carries. And is anybody who's in support?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. It's too early to start this.
Calling the next case, calling BOA 543-908, 100 A Street. Name and address for the record, please.
Patrick Mahoney with the business address of 160 Federal Street. Requesting a 1-year extension for a relief that expires on May 13th for 100 A Street. We have been working diligently with inspectional services to to get the permit issued, and I believe it should be issued this month.
Make a
Probably-
motion.
Probably this week.
Make a motion for a one-year extension.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. You're all set for
Thank
1
you.
year.
Calling the next case for G-Card, calling BOA 815-268-94 Chestnut Street. This is to renovate a 4,000 square foot brownstone. The violation is Article 32, Section 9, G-Card enforcement. Name and address for the record, please.
Ben Whitney, address is 251 Newbury Street in Boston.
Okay, Kristen?
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Christian Simonelli, Groundwater Trust, and we have the approval letter from Boston Water and Sewer.
And we also have the letter.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. You're all set. Good luck.
Calling the 9:30 hearings. Are there any deferrals or withdrawals for 9:30? Counselor, address, please.
75 G Street.
Calling BOA 735-236, 75 G Street. Name and address for the record, please.
Doug Stefanov, 93 F Street. Madam, I'd like to request a deferral to continue community support. We just went through a landmarks review and have successfully come up with a new scheme, which I'd like to bring back to the neighborhood.
Is it going to be looking different? Will the number of units or will the violations change?
The violations will change.
Okay, so when you come back, please be prepared to address those.
Yes, ma'am.
May I have a motion,
Motion to
please?
defer.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The date, please?
June 26th.
Thank you very much.
Are there any other deferrals or withdrawals for 9:30? Hearing none, we'll call to the first case. Calling BOA 802-209-100 Boardman Street. This is the East Boston Hilton Garden Inn. It's to construct a 5-story, 84-room addition to an existing hotel. Work includes modified entry drives, parking areas containing a total of approximately 299 vehicles, spaces, and pedestrian walks, landscape, and lighting. This addition project has completed the Article 80 review and is being submitted to ISD. A violation of Article 53, Section 26, dimensional regulations, the building height is excessive. Name and address for the record, please.
Good morning, Mary Marshall from Nutter McLennan, 155 Seaport Boulevard. With me is Jeff Karam, one of the developer owners, as well as Leanne Marshall, also one of the developer owners, and Ralph Biggers, the architect for the project. This is a return to the board. We appeared before you in 2013, at which point in time we got approval for the initial hotel construction, which slightly exceeds the height limit in East Boston. It's within the East Boston Economic Development Area. The hotel has been completed. It's a great success. There were 2 retail pads that were proposed for co-development at the time. That has not received as much traction in the community and in the business. So we come back before you to do an addition to the existing hotel because it too, which will be similar in height to the existing structure. Therefore, we require a height variance. As you may recall, this was the site of a former U.S. Navy depot, fuel depot. So it has been really, as you can see from the graphics, it's really been revitalized and is providing both jobs as well as hotel rooms to the neighborhood.
And so height is your only violation?
Height is the only violation.
Okay. How are the plans, Mr. Pisani?
The drawings are adequate. I do have a question. These were the original plans that were submitted prior to Article 80. Were there any changes?
No, I don't believe so. We went through a notice of project change back before the BPDA and received approval in the fall, in the late fall of 2017, but I don't think there are substantial changes, Jeff.
No, no substantial.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions from the board? Is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal?
Madam Chair, members of the board, John Allison, Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services, on behalf of Jesus Garcia, we'd like to go on record in support. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the board, to the City Council, Lydia Edwards' office. She wishes to go on record in in support.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Minor Perez, representing the Carpenters Union, would like to go on record in support of this project.
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the board, Gary Walker, Electrical Workers Local 103. I would like to speak in support of this project, and I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Is anybody here to speak in opposition? May I have a motion, please?
Motion to approve continuing BPDA design review.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. You're all set. Good luck.
Calling the next case, calling BOA 794-923-288 Chelsea Street. This is to remove the existing porch and rebuild an enclosure. The violations, Article 53, Section 9, insufficient rear yard setback, 22.5 feet is required, proposed to 17.5. Name and address for the record, please.
Jose Villanueva, 288 Chelsea Street, East Boston.
Tell us what you're proposing.
Rebuild an existing porch.
Okay.
Enclosure unheated.
Enclosed and heated?
Unheated.
And unheated?
Yes.
Can I ask those guys at the back of the room to take your conversations outside? I'm sorry, unheated.
Yes.
And what will it be used for?
Just for the common area.
Okay. How are the plans, Mr. Bazzani?
Drawings are adequate.
Any questions from the board? Is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal?
Madam Chair, members of the board, John Allison, Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. On behalf of Jesus Garcia, we'd like to go on record in support. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Judy Evans, City Council of Lydia Edwards' office. She wishes to go on record in support as well.
Thank you. Is anybody here to speak in opposition? May I have a motion, please?
Motion to approve.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. You're all set. Good luck.
Calling the next case, calling BOA 783-652-740 Saratoga Street. Is 740 Saratoga Street here? I'm off to the side. Calling the next case, calling BOA 803-429 9 Hill Street. This is a new front and rear dormers, and remodel the third floor bath and extend living space into the finished basement. The violations, Article 62, Section 25, roof structure restricted district. Article 62, Section 8, the floor-to-area ratio is excessive. And Article 62, Section 8, the side yard setback requirement is insufficient. Name and address for the record, please.
Samu Kanda, 9 Hill Street.
What's being proposed?
We're seeking approval for front and rear dormer.
Please speak up. I'm just having a hard time hearing
Hello,
you.
hello.
Okay.
Front and rear dormer and extending the living space into a finished basement.
You can take that off. It's only on Velcro, and pull it towards you if you want. So that should be closer anyway. Thank you.
Better? Better?
Thank you. So, tell us, so this is front and rear dormer. Is this a one or a two family?
It's a one family.
It's a single family?
Correct.
And what's the use in the basement?
Right now it's just storage and mechanical and laundry.
And what's it proposed to be?
Playroom, laundry,
Okay.
storage, mechanical.
And what's the floor to ceiling height?
Will be 8 feet.
Okay. How are the plans, Mr. Bazzani?
Your drawings are adequate.
Any questions from the board? Is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal?
Madam Chair, members of the board, Christopher Breen from the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. We'd like to speak in support. We held a community meeting around March 19th that was lightly attended, about 4 people that also spoke in support. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Judy Evans, City Council of Lydia Edwards' office. She would like to go on record in support.
Thank you. Is anybody here to speak in opposition on this project? May I have a motion, please?
To approve. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. You're all set. Good luck.
Calling BOA 812-913, 537A, 537 Columbus Avenue. This is to remove the proviso from the petition only for outdoor seating for 8 persons. The violations, Article 6, Section 4, are the conditional as protection. Name and address for the record, please.
Is this a complete set? Are there 4 of these, or how does this work?
There's 2 of these.
Yes.
There is one for the use and one for the outdoor seating. He mentioned the outdoor seating first.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. On the other side, you're right. Sorry. Companion case. BOA 812-908. This is the removal proviso for the petition only for takeout restaurant. The violations, Article 6, Section 4, other conditional necessary as protections. Name and address for the record, please.
Paul Gibbs, Sandwich, Mass.
Thank you.
David Spinney, Woburn, Mass.
Tell us what you're proposing.
Basically, Lobster on a Roll took over an existing pizza restaurant.
Who took over?
Lobster on a Roll
Okay.
at 537A Columbus Ave. Took
Okay.
over an existing restaurant.
No examples?
No samples? Yes.
We can come later, I'm sure, and take his name.
So please go ahead.
And basically, they took over an existing restaurant, but in this zone, the takeout restaurant's conditional. And the restaurant's conditional, as such, the outdoor seating is conditional.
And this outdoor seating will be on private property?
Yes.
It is, okay.
Yes.
How are the plans, Mr. Pisani?
The drawings are adequate.
Any questions from the board?
Is there any change in the number seating, or you just want
Nope.
to change it for the petition?
Just to change, remove the petitioner, so they had 8 seats inside, 10 seats outside. We're gonna have 8 seats inside, 10 seats outside.
Got it.
And has this petitioner previous experience with takeout in the city?
Yes,
In the city of Boston?
yes.
Okay.
Excuse me, I'm looking at the drawing and it shows 8 outside. Where-
Maybe it's 8 outside, yeah.
8
That was-
outside, 10 inside?
No, it's 8 inside. I know it's 8 inside, 8 outside.
Okay. Okay,
Sorry about that.
no problem. Is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal?
Madam Chair, members of the board, John Ellis, and Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services, we'd like to go on record in support. Thank you.
Is anybody here to speak in opposition? May I have a motion, please?
Second.
Is that with the usual takeout proviso?
Take out the language for this petitioner only.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. You're all set. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Calling the next two cases, calling BOA 812-917, 535 to 541 Boylston Street. Companion case, BOA 812-921, 535 to 541 Boylston. This is the removal proviso for petitioner only. Verts has changed its name to Noon. The seating already exists, no work to be done. The violations, Article 6, Section 4, changed to a previous decision of the Board of Appeal. This is the remove the proviso for this petitioner only. This petition only. Verts Mediterranean Grill changed its name to Noon Mediterranean Grill. No work to be done. Violation Article 6, Section 4. Other protectional conditions. The change to the decision of the Board of Appeal. Name and address for the record, please.
Paul Gibbs, Sandwich, Mass.
Kevin Valenany, Medford, Mass.
Tell us what's being proposed.
Basically, Verts had been operating there for about 2 to 3 years, and Verts changed its name in December to Noon. That's the only change, just the name, corporate name change and DBA name.
And is there also outdoor seating on this?
Yes.
Which one is that?
I think it's either the one right after it, maybe? There's 2 of them.
Okay, and how many seats is this?
How many seats outside? 14 seats, I think. It's not, it should be on the plan. We had to write.
How are the plans, Mr. Pisani?
The drawings are adequate.
There'll be a new sign?
A new sign, yes, and they have BBAC approval.
Is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal?
I get 18 seats.
18 seats, okay. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the board, John Allison, Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services, on behalf of Yazel Guerrero, we'd like to go on record in support. Thank you.
Thank you. Is anybody here to speak in opposition? May I have a motion, please?
Actually, there are 2 plans. One has 18, one has 14. What's the real number?
The certified plot plan should be the correct one. There should be one inside, that shows the inside plans.
Yeah.
That's not correct for the outdoor seating.
The certified plot plan is the one that shows the 18.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you.
May I have a motion, please?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Usual proviso? Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. You're all set. Good luck.
Thank you.
Calling the next case, calling BOA 809-927, 240A Newbury Street. This is a change auction to include a cafe. The violations, Article 8, Section 3, conditional uses. Name and address for the record, please.
Good morning. Excuse me. Dennis Quilty, attorney at McDermott, Quilty and Miller, 28th State Street.
Representing the property owner with me is Vin Norton of the property owning entity, and Armand Bahran from the tenant entity, Suit Supply Cafe Suso. Good morning.
So, Mr. Quilty, please tell us what's being proposed.
Yes, ma'am. This is a very famous location. It's actually the former Daisy Buchanan Chow Bella space on Newbury Street, 240A Newbury Street. Mr. Norton and his partners bought the property some years ago, and it's been under renovation ever since. The tenant is proposed to be Suit Supply, which is a European clothing manufacturer, which will take almost the entire building. In that space, they would like to have an accessory cafe. The cafe requires relief because although there were 2 restaurants at this site for many, many, many years, and in fact one of the licenses is still in place, the use had lapsed because of the time it took to construct the building, and when the application was filed, they said you need to ask for it. So it's literally to just reapply and attach that CV license.
It's not the main use now, it's becoming an accessory
Totally
use.
an accessory use,
Okay, how
correct.
many seats, and is this internal or external to the building?
There's an existing patio, which is 16 seats, and the inside capacity goes down dramatically to about 20 in their cafe.
Okay. That's 36 seats altogether.
Yes, and we went through Neighborhood Association of the Back Bay, worked with Yusel Guerrero in the mayor's office. She told us we did not have to do an abutters meeting since we had the NAB approval. So I think and everybody on the street is well aware of what's coming and looking forward to it, quite frankly.
How are the plans, Mr. Pisani?
Drawings are adequate.
And cafe means coffee, tea, or
It'll be
full
sandwiches,
service?
light foods,
Okay.
and sandwiches, coffee, soft drinks, wine, beer.
The capacity of Daisy's was a little bit more than 36 people, correct?
Pardon me, sir?
Oh, yeah.
When Daisy's was there, it was a little bit more than 36 people, correct?
Substantially, yes, sir.
I remember the
And
place.
actually, there was another full restaurant, Chow Bella.
Yeah.
So between the two of them, the capacity was probably a couple of hundred or more.
Any other questions from the board? Is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal?
Madam Chair, members of the board, John Ellis and Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services, we'd like to go on record in support. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Elliot Laffer from Neighborhood Association Back Bay. This is, as one of your members stated, a substantially less intensive use than was there previously. The licensing, I gather, will allow later hours than they plan to operate, and will allow all alcohol when they plan to use beer and wine, which is pleasing to us. And so we are not in opposition.
Thank you.
Counselor, I do have a question. Because the licensing allows a later time than normal closing, does that mean that it is operated independently, therefore, of the clothing store?
No, the license will be utilized by the clothing store. The license which Mr. Norton's entity owns will maintain in his ownership. We'll be applying for a management agreement between he and they for the operation, which has to be approved by the licensing board, but that license has been in place for probably 30 years. So it just changed from...
When the store closes, the cafe closes.
Yeah, when the store closes, the cafe will close, but he will maintain his hours of operation on the license, even though they will utilize it for less time.
Is anybody here to speak in opposition? May I have a motion, please?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. You're all set.
Calling the next case, calling BOA 811-625, 250 Newbury Street. This is to remove the proviso for this petitioner only. White Puppy, while having the same name, is changing ownership. The new ownership is Revelator Coffee Company. No work to be done. The violation is Article 6, Section 4, other protectional conditions. Petitions to remove proviso to this previous petition only. Name and address for the record, please.
Paul Gibbs, Sandwich, Mass.
Michael Bullock, Milford, Mass.
Tell us what's being proposed.
Well, basically, Revelator Coffee, a corporate entity, purchased Beans and Machines, which operated Wired Puppy last year. Wired Puppy has been operating at this location for 10+ years. So basically, and Revelator Coffee purchased the entire assets of Beans and Machines. So this year, they dissolved Beans Machines, and they're changing the corporate name to Revelator Coffee. No changes, no work to be done. They're just changing the corporate ownership.
And is this going to have outdoor seating, or is this all
It
internal?
will have outdoor seating, which we've applied for, but we haven't gotten to now yet to apply for the appeal, so we'll be back in for that.
And this is for takeout?
Yes.
Okay. How are the plans, Mr. Bazzani?
The drawings are adequate. It does show 12 outdoor seats, but you're not asking for that.
We're not asking for that because we haven't applied for that appeal yet.
Any other questions from the board? Is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal?
Madam Chair, members of the board, John Allison, Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services, we would like to go on record in support. Thank you.
Any, Elliot? No? Is anybody here to speak in opposition? May I have a motion, please?
Motion to approve, the petitioner on takeout language.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. You're all set with that proviso.
Thank you.
Calling the next case, calling BOA 811-447, 120 Bolton Street. This is the proposed 2 off-street parking at 120 Bolton, located at the backyard of 223 West 2nd. Ancillary parking used for 223 West 2nd Street. The violations, Article 10, Section 1, off-street parking shall not be located less than 5 feet from the side lot line. Article 68, Section 7, ancillary parking is a conditional use. Public Works Department approved the curb cut, but will require sign-off on the system, and Parks Department approval may be required. Name and address for the record, please.
John Doyle, owner, 120 Bolton Street.
Tell us, is this a one or a two-family dwelling?
It's a one-family.
It's a one-family dwelling?
Yeah, it's actually ancillary parking for 223 West 2nd Street. It's the lot directly behind it. And there's 2 or 3 houses right beside me that have the same type of house on West 2nd Street than the parking behind.
So, please, I think I'm still a little confused. Can you explain clearly what's happening? So your address is 120 Bolton?
Correct.
And
There's
this
2 lots.
parking is for you or 223 West 2nd Street?
Correct. 2 ancillary spots for that.
Okay. And do you have enough parking for your site,
Yes.
for your one family?
Yeah, well, there's no parking there in the one family now, so when the house was purchased, it was purchased with both lots, because that's sort of how the neighborhood runs, like the house beside us has the lot behind it, and the house beside, on 223, on the West 2nd Street, the other house behind, the neighborhood has adjoining lots behind it. And so I'm just asking for what the other neighbors have right beside us, ancillary parking for 223 in this respect for, on Bolton Street, because it's a one-way street, and the cars back right up to the house.
Okay, Mr. Bazzani, can you help us with this? Are the plans edifying in any way?
Well, the question I have is, where is your actual parking for your?
There is no parking for 223.
Okay, hold on, let's backtrack. What is on 120 Bolton?
It's just a vacant lot. It's just a
completely vacant lot?
Completely vacant.
Okay. And then, so what you're proposing is, and how many square feet is this?
It's about 800 square feet.
800, and on this vacant lot, you're proposing 2 ancillary spaces for 223 West 2nd Street?
Yes.
Okay? Okay, how are the plans, Mr. Bazzani?
The drawings are adequate, in that they show 2 spaces. And there's no thought of getting 4 by doing tandem?
No.
And was this part of the city's disposal of property, or how?
No.
There's no restrictions on it?
It's been part of that house actually for generations.
Oh, so you could combine the lots?
I could, yes, I guess. But that's not the way it was deeded, that was individual. But it is combined, actually, that's really what I'm doing.
If it's ancillary, it's not combined.
Well,
Yeah, so
gotcha,
you
but
might
it
wanna.
looks combined, but it isn't.
Yeah, you might want to think about legally
Yeah.
to get it combined. Okay. Any questions from the board? Is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal?
Madam Chair, members of the board, John Allison, Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. We would like to go on record in support of this proposal. There is no street parking on this street, so this wouldn't take any parking away, and it would add spaces to this house. Thank you.
Okay.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Steve Moore from City Councilor Ed Flynn's office. We would also like to go on record in support.
Okay. Is anybody here to speak in opposition? May I have a motion, please?
Motion to approve. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. You're all set.
Thank you.
Calling the next case, calling BOA 786-687, 159 to 165 M Street. This is a legitimized existing decks in the rear of the building. The violations, Article 68, Section 8, rear yard is insufficient. Name and address for the record, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. Jeff Drago with Drago and Toscano, with an address of 15 Broad Street, representing Tara Pisani, who's here with me today.
Yeah, just for the record.
No relation.
No relation. We are not related.
But good name, nonetheless. Also, Doug Stefanov, who's the architect on the project. As was mentioned, we're seeking simply to legalize two existing rear decks. Both decks are pre-existing. They were pre-existing when my client purchased this property over 8 years ago. In the packet of information I provided, it shows a Google Map view of the two decks where they're laid out on the property. There's also evidence in there that the decks are mentioned at ISD's long-form application for repairs since before 1978. So the decks have been there long before they purchased this property.
Are you stating the decks have been there since 1978?
Since at least 1978, but likely before, because in the docket there's mention of repairs of the decks that are existing since 1978, which we provided. The size of the decks are simply 70 square feet, 13 by 5.5 feet for one of them, and 11 by 6.25 for the other. I'm sorry?
What triggered this review?
So there's a pre-existing rear yard setback, but because we made a change to that rear yard, it is triggered. So, however, the existing building, if you look at the contours,
Change in the rear yard?
by adding the decks, it was triggered by ISD. By legalizing the decks that are already in existence, it was.
Wait a minute. Going in circles here. What triggered
The legalization of the actual decks that have already been.
what was the reason?
The only violation was rear yard setback.
So,
The rear,
anybody there who's here to speak, please hold. We'll give you a chance to speak. So, hold on, okay? Go ahead.
sorry. What? Go ahead.
If I can speak, we have records of the decks always being there. This back of the building was once a store, actually a bakery. I don't have any graphic representation of anything from 1978 or earlier. There's the neighbors, these decks have been rebuilt. They're rebuilt a different shape than what you see on your drawings. So that's really the issue, is that
So they changed their shape, did you
they
say?
changed their shape.
Okay, so it's really not rebuilt exactly on what was there before?
According to the drawings, no.
Okay, and in what way did they change
They
their shape?
became square, and one of them squared off became bigger than what you see on your drawings.
Okay.
And a permit was pulled for that work.
That's what we do not have that.
There was
no.
nothing. This was prior to the owner owning the property.
It
There was
went
nothing.
condo in '91, and then at some point they were rebuilt after that, prior to the purchase by our client.
I'm missing something. I still don't understand what triggered the issue of why you need legalization now. It's pre-existing.
We have a complaint from the neighbor.
So a violation was issued. I thought you were talking about code and not why.
Why are we here?
I'm sorry.
So, how are the plans, Mr. Pisani?
The drawings are adequate. I mean, it shows decks.
And how many units in this building?
It's actually two 3-unit buildings that are attached, 159 and 163.
Yeah.
165. So the issue is only 2 decks on the second floor of each 159 and 165. So it's 2 decks, second floor.
That are roughly the same
So
square
they're
footage.
both second floor decks
Yes.
at the extended address?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, and these are rear yard decks?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. Any questions from the board? Is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal? Anybody who's here to speak in support, please line up and give us new information. Otherwise, just put your name and address on the record.
Madam Chair, members of the board, John Allison, Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. We would like to go on record in support. These are existing decks. We do want to acknowledge there is a lot of support within the community. I do also want to acknowledge that there are abutters who are opposed to the decks, and we understand their concerns that the decks are too close. But given the support in the community and the fact that these decks are existing and have existed for a long time, we are in support. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Ashley Brown. I'm a direct abutter at 159 M Street. I'm here to speak in support of the legalizing both decks. The current owner, Ms. Pisani, has been in the property since 2011. She hasn't done anything to the decks. They haven't changed, and this is only coming up now for reason by one neighbor complaining. The decks are typical to South Boston. We all have small lots. There are lots of rear decks. The decks are shown in plans going back, and she's a good neighbor. We live in a nice neighborhood with families.
Let's just talk about the decks, okay? Thank you.
Yep. And they're, just one note, they're maintained in good condition. She puts flowers out. It's not a blight on the neighborhood by any means.
Okay, thank you. For the rest of you, if you have new information, please add it. Otherwise, leave your name and address on the record, please.
Hi, I'm Rachel Holman. I live at 165 unit number 3. I just wanted to add, I bought in 2010, and when I bought, the deck was built 1 month after that below me by the owner, and then was sold to Terra in 2011. I just wanted to add that information. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ryan Siegel. I live at 176 I Street, about 2 blocks away. I currently own at 159 M Street and have owned there since 2005. It was several years after that that there was a lot of work done on the apartment, on the whole building, because the house was a blight to society, really. With all that work, the decks had to come down and were put up subsequently by the owner at the time. As was said before, the decks are in great condition, much better than they were before.
Thank you.
Nicholas Brown, I live at 158 M Street. It's directly across the street. I speak in favor of this proposal. The decks have been there for a number of years, as everyone said. They're great neighbors. These are typical of the neighborhood. I won't go on and reiterate anything further. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Mary Lou Marcari, and I've been there since 1961. And I saw before when it was the bakery and what the building looked like. It was not a very good place to live, and I was very uncomfortable over the years. When they renovated it and they did the work on the house, it's great. It's beautiful, and Tara and her husband have done a wonderful job with their house, and I hope that it maintains even better. Thank you.
Morning, my name is Matthew Fitzgerald. I own 153 M Street and 155 M Street and reside at 155 M Street, and I support the proposal. The decks look good. I've been over there, I've seen them, and they're great neighbors, and it's like the rest of the decks in the neighborhood, so I support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is anybody here to speak in opposition?
Madam Chair, members of the board, Steve Moore, City Councilor Ed Flynn's office. We would like to go on record in opposition. While we did just hear from some abutters that are in favor, we've also heard from many abutters who are opposed.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Paul Sullivan, on behalf of the council at large, Michael Flaherty. The council would like to also go on record in opposition.
Madam Chair, members of the board, I am the direct abutter at 664 East 7th Street.
What's your name?
My name is John P. Hines.
Okay. So tell us briefly what your opposition is based on?
My opposition is based on the distance between the deck and the side wall of my building.
How far is that?
That is 23 inches.
So
I
that's about
submitted-
2 feet.
It's about 2 feet.
Okay.
I submitted photographs and actually an illustration with a tape measure to indicate exactly the distance. On the last page of those signatures in opposition that I submitted to you folks, you will find a photograph of Mrs. Tarr's second floor unit with a working wood-burning fireplace. And that building with 6 units has no fire suppression system. It's a major concern of mine, and it should be a concern of everybody in the building.
I'm having a question though. So these are rear decks, and your picture shows the 2 feet distance on the side yard.
Correct.
So that's an existing violation.
That's correct, ma'am. Those decks were built illegally.
No, but the deck, the trigger, as far as ISD is concerned, states that it's just the rear yard that triggers the insufficiency.
I'm sorry, I don't understand what you just said, ma'am.
Okay. So as far as the building is concerned, the violation is really related to the rear yard and not to the side yard. I just want to put that on the record.
It would be their rear yard, my side wall of my building. Their rear wall where the deck abuts out over the old bakery, which is brick. If you look at a photograph and the larger of the photographs, you'll see a roof line. That was in addition to that structure, and I don't know exactly when that took place. And then they added on to that rear door where there's a deck now, as you can see with those lean-to 2x8s.
So your concern is the distance, the 2-foot distance between the property?
Absolutely,
Okay.
and a quality of life in terms of tranquility, peace of mind, and it's not just for her, because in the event that she does move, which she probably will, because it is a 6-unit building, and she's trying to nurture children, and I can appreciate that, but she'll probably move on, and I'll be dealing with somebody that's going to be doing something else with that property. So it will be a revolving door for me to be before you people again. We already addressed this last year in terms of her demoing the deck and putting an addition on there and going all the way up to the roof.
Okay.
As you can see, there is a roof deck there. So if it's a question of amenities for a roof deck, or a deck, if you will, there's one right in the building.
Okay, hold on right there. So I just need to keep the testimony completely focused on this violation, okay?
Correct.
So as far as I can gather so far, the distance is your concern is the distance of 2 feet, and second is quality of life.
Quality of life, correct.
Anything else?
Well, life and fire.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Members?
Hello, your name and address, please.
Bonnie McDonough. I live in the building 664, Mr. Hines. And my problem is air, light, and fire. There's grills on those decks, and if there's ever a fire with those wood-burning fireplaces, it's gonna take out the entire block. And it's right 2 inches from my bedroom window. Those are bedroom windows that you see on the side. So I'm opposed to it for the reason of safety, for the light, air, and fire.
Thank you. Anybody else here to speak in opposition? Given that information, anything you'd like to respond?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to highlight one picture. So as you can see, the existing building actually goes out farther than the deck. The deck is over 2 feet from the lot line. The second deck is about 9 feet where it pulls in from the lot line.
And what is the distance actually between that deck and the abutting building? Is it like 2.5 or 3 feet?
Yes, correct.
Doug, can you say
Yes, ma'am. It's approximately, it's a little under 3 feet.
about 3 feet?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I also want to point out the roof deck is another unit's exclusive roof deck, so that's not Tara's roof deck. she has access to. So this deck, with the size that they have a very, very small, limited amount of open space, this literally just gives her only open space for the building. The other point is, in the condo docks, it directly prohibits any propane, gas products, or anything on that deck at all, and that's written into the condo.
Okay. Given that information, may I have a motion, please?
Motion to approve.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion, who's opposed? Mr. Bickerstaff is opposed. Motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you all very much.
Calling BOA 795-237-184 Tudor Street. This is adding parking for one on the side of the one vehicle on the side of the building. Violations, Article 68, Section 33, off-street parking requirement. Size of the parking space does not meet the minimum dimensions required by zoning. Name and address for the record, please.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is James Christopher of RCA LLC, Project Architects. This proposal is to construct a new curb cut with a parking space for one vehicle. There's currently no parking on Tudor Street. It's a pretty narrow street. I've included some photographs of abutting buildings with very similar parking conditions, and just about every building that has a curb cut on the street is very similar in size and scale. So we feel it's appropriate. It will relieve some parking on the abutting streets. It's a single-family structure. So
this is a one-family?
Correct.
And you're proposing the parking, so this Lot A, what is Lot A?
It's abutting to the parcel. It's the same parcel as that building.
It is?
It is. It's one
And
parcel.
is there parking on that side of Tudor Street?
There's no parking on Tudor Street at all, Madam Chair.
Okay. How are the plans, Mr. Bazzani?
The drawings are adequate, shows a 10 by
17'6".
What address is this? This is 184. Boy, that's something really interesting happening at 174, huh? Okay. Any questions from the board? Is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal?
Madam Chair, members of the board, John Allison, Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. We would like to go on record in support. There is no parking on this street, so it won't take any off-street parking. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Steve Moore, City Councilor Ed Flynn's office, we would also like to go on record in support.
Thank you. Is anybody here to speak in opposition? May I have a motion, please?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. You're all set. Good luck.
I'm going to go back to an earlier case we called on Saratoga Street. Is Saratoga Street here?
May I have a motion,
Madam
please?
Chair, I'm going to call in for the record. Hold on a second. Calling BOA 783-652-740 Saratoga Street. It's now 10:20. I'll make a motion for denial without prejudice.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The board will be in recess until 10:30. Board of Appeal for Tuesday, May 8th is back in session. Just a reminder, please take all conversations out of the room. Make sure your cell phones are off. In conformance with the open meeting law, this meeting is being live streamed. Also, we are here to hear testimony from the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services, any comments from the BRA or the Boston Planning and Development Agency, and we're also here to hear from you, from residents, from neighbors and abutters. If you have new information, please put it on the record. If somebody in line prior to you has already put the testimony that you are going to speak to on the record, just put your name and address, okay? That'll help us move the agenda along, but it also gives us new information when somebody steps up. Okay, Mr. Fortune?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to call any deferrals or withdrawals for 10:30. Counselor, address?
Both 32 and 34 Hartwell Street, Ward 12.
For the record, calling BOA 708-918, 32 Hartwell Street, companion case BOA 708-8914, 34 Hartwell Street. Name and address for the record, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. Jeff Drago, with an address of 15 Broad Street. Seeking a deferral for both of those applications. We were advised by both the mayor's office and the city councilor's office that they would like to hold another community meeting to discuss a few items that have come up in the last few hours.
Hey, may I have a motion, please?
Motion for deferral.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The date, please.
We are into June 26th.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Any other? Go ahead, Mr.
Are there any other deferrals or withdrawals for 10:30? Hearing none, we'll call the first case, calling BOA 759-537, 180 Norfolk Avenue.
I recuse myself.
This is on a vacant parcel. Erect a three-story, three-family dwelling with rear and roof decks. Violation of Article 50, Section 43, parking is insufficient. Article 50, Section 29, lot area is insufficient. Article 50, lot area for additional unit is insufficient. Article 50, lot width is insufficient. Article 50, Section 29, lot frontage is insufficient. Article 50, Section 29, the floor to area ratio is excessive. Article 50, Section 29, open space is insufficient. Article 50, Section 29, side yard is insufficient. And Article 50, Section 29, rear yard is insufficient. Name and address for the record, please.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is George Moranci. I'm an attorney with the business address of 350 West Broadway in South Boston. I'm joined by my client, who's the owner of the property, Joseph Holland. Property is located at 180 Norfolk Avenue.
Just for the record, it should be noted that Mr. Galvin has recused himself.
Thank you. The application is for a new three-story, three-family dwelling. This is a classic infill construction. This is a 1,730 square foot lot at the corner of Norfolk Avenue and Shetland Street. The board may remember that several weeks ago, or a couple months ago actually, an identical building by the same architect was approved at 182 Norfolk Avenue. This is again the same building, continuing the infill of some vacant lots on Norfolk Avenue. The building
Built on the Shetland Street corner.
Correct. This is that Shetland Street parcel, which the board also saw when the 13 Shetland Street project, Mr. Holland's project, was approved several months ago. This is a three-story, three-family building. Unit 1 occupies a portion of the basement in the first floor. It would be a two-bedroom, three-bath unit, 1,499 square feet. The second unit would be on the second floor, two bedrooms, one bath, 993 square feet. Third floor would be the third unit, two bedrooms, one bath, 1,034 square feet. There are rear porches providing open space. There would also be a roof deck, dimension 12 feet by 16 feet for the exclusive use of Unit 3. The height of the building is 32 feet 6 inches from grade. There's a height violation attributable to story height only. The lot area in this district, which is a 3F4000 required for a three-family dwelling, would be 6,000 square feet. As I mentioned, this lot is 1,730. This lot is essentially identical to the other lots on this side of Norfolk Ave, which is why I say this is classic infill construction. So there's a violation for lot area and lot area for additional dwelling units. There's a lot width and frontage violation. 25 feet is required by code. This lot is 23 feet wide. There's an FAR violation. We're at 0.8. Maximum under Article 50 is 0.5. Usable open space violation, 650 square feet per unit is required. As I mentioned, there are porches off the rear. There's a deck on the roof, and the site is actually about 1.5 blocks from the Clifford Playground. Side yard violation, 10 feet is required. There's a 3-foot setback. There's also a 3-foot setback on the building on the lot at 182, which hasn't been built yet, so there's 6 feet of separation distance between buildings. Rear yard violation with the shallow lot exception. The required rear yard here is 10 feet. This has a rear yard of 9 feet. And then, of course, there is no parking. Mr. Holland is intending to use this as a rental property. It would be rental units. He has the ability in the future, should the need arise to have parking here, to potentially use a couple of the spaces associated with the 13 Shetland Street project. That would, of course, require a use of premises permit.
Sorry to interrupt, but didn't 13 Shetland Street also request parking variances?
Yes, so on 13 Shetland, there are 57 rental units. There are 52 parking spaces. Mr. Holland, again, we don't even think that those 52 spaces will be used by the rental units. He's also thinking of putting some zip car ride sharing in there. He's also thinking about, with the introduction of ride sharing services, maybe doing stackers. So if anything, we think there may be an overflow of parking. If parking becomes an issue at 180 Norfolk, obviously we'd have to come back to this board for conditional use permit for ancillary parking. But again, as a rental building, it's about an 8-minute walk to the Newmarket Square station on commuter rail. And with Mr. Holland's other experience with rental properties, he does not think that this building will attract tenants who are driving. If that is the case, and if they need parking, then he will explore options on the 13 Shetland Street site.
Should the economics require the sale of the property, then we have no assurance that any parking demand can be met.
Again, it's anticipated that these units will be marketed towards people who are renting and don't own motor vehicles.
But should Mr. Holland decide to sell this property and not hold them, hold it in his name, then the parking, if there should be a demand for parking, how is that going to be met?
Again, there is still parking available on site, of course. I mean, we're talking about off-street dedicated parking for the building. It's just not programmed for this.
Is there room in the rear yard to accommodate parking?
There's only 6 feet between the two buildings.
The two buildings on Norfolk, how about between Norfolk and the building on Shetland?
Well, again, Shetland, well, there's only a 9-foot rear yard setback between to the rear lot line.
Okay. How are the plans, Mr. Pisani?
The drawings are adequate.
Any questions from the board? Is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal?
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Joshua McFadden, Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. I'd like to go on record in support. We do have in our possession here 6 letters of support as well as 55 signatures in support of the project.
Good morning. My name is Emil Canuto. I lived in that neighborhood for over 25 years. I am in support of 180 Norfolk Ave. Thank you.
Is anybody here to speak in opposition? May I have a motion, please?
Motion for approval, BPDA design review.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And again, Mr. Pisani, with the same proviso that we had on Shetland Street about recognizing the industrial uses?
Yes.
Okay. And is there a second to that?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So you're all set with those.
Just to clarify, that was the same language for 13 Shetland.
Yes.
Thank you.
Calling the next case, calling BOA 805-881, 80 Terrace Street. This is to construct a 5-story mixed-use building. On the ground floor will be parking garage under the building. On the second floor will be office space. On 3 through 5 will be 9 residential condo units. There will be a common roof deck for the building tenants. This is to combine lots on to be known as 80 Terrace Street. The violation, Article 59, Section 18, multifamily dwelling is forbidden. Article 59, Section 19, the floor-to-area ratio is excessive. Article 59, Section 19, the building height is excessive. Article 59, Section 19, the usable open space is insufficient. Article 59, Section 19, the rear yard is insufficient. And Article 59, Section 37, off-street parking is insufficient. Name and address for the record, please.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board, Attorney Nick Zazula, McDermott, Quilty, and Miller, 28 State Street, Suite 802 here in Boston. With me to my far left is David Pills, and to my immediate left is Jenny Shen, both from General Development and the project applicant. We've provided you a handout today with some background, some images, some existing conditions, site photos, and things of the like. The property itself is about 5,100 square feet. It's located at the corner of Terrace Street and Allegheny Street in Mission Hill. It's right across from the train tracks from Roxbury Community College. Existing on the property site right now is a small, dilapidated, and vacant single-family dwelling of about 1,200 square feet. It's situated at the front and side lot lines, besides an adjacent unpaved side yard that has often been used for storage and off-street parking. There is an existing curb cut on that side of the property. And what we're looking to do with this project is to revitalize this underutilized property site and replace it with a new mixed-use residential condominium home ownership development, architecturally thoughtful and design forward, with on-site parking and other related improvements. The specific project itself, which you're reviewing now, it's a 5-story building, 9 condominium home ownership units, and 9 at-grade garage parking spaces underneath. Each unit's about 1,100 square feet. They're all 2-bedroom, 2-bath, so nice size, 2-bed, 2-bath, 3 per floor on the 3rd, 4th, and 5th floors. There is a proposed co-working kind of artist space, shared working space concept on the 2nd story, which is about 3,089 square feet. That has conference rooms, lounge, kitchen and bathrooms, kind of a new age shared working space idea that's going to be geared towards kind of 21st century artists. But it will be a shared office-based environment. And finally, on the top level, there's a proposed roof deck amenity space, which there are images of in the handout that we provided to you today, which will provide open space not only for the co-working space, but also for the 9 condominium units. It's about 1,100 square feet.
So please, what is the square feet dedicated to the co-working space?
It's the 2nd story is 3,089 square feet.
Is the space at the old Mississippi's, that's also co-working space?
I believe it is to some degree, yes.
Yeah, and it's all spoken for now?
My understanding, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Madam Chair, if I may go through the zoning relief.
And this zoning district is LI?
Correct. Yes, ma'am. It's a local industrial, but Terrace Street is transitioning more and more towards a mixed use. There's a lot of residences going in. Across the street is the Art Park, Sebastian Mariscal's development. The Oliver Lofts are down the street. Allegheny Street is residential as well. So the idea here is with the design that's in front of you is to kind of draw from the industrial, kind of history of the street so that the building blends in with what's there now, but also provides for the residential use. So the residential use is forbidden, even though there's a lot of residential on Terrace Street, so we were requiring and requesting a variance for the multifamily residential. Floor area ratio excessive, 2 is allowed, and we're proposing 3.47. Building height excessive, it is allowed 40 feet, and we're proposing 59 feet 6 inches, so just under 60 feet. There's no rear abutters to this. It's abutted by the train tracks. There's a significant grade change going up on the other side of Terrace Street. So the hope here is that the height is not and wasn't seen as an issue with the neighborhood. Usable open space insufficient. We were cited for it. It requires 50 square feet per dwelling unit. I'm not entirely sure why we were cited for that, because we have 9 units, which would be 450 square feet, and the roof deck, which is accessible to everybody in the building, is over 1,000 square feet. But we were cited for that. We would suggest that we're compliant with that. In terms of minimum rear yard, 3-foot setback on the rear is proposed, and 15 is required. However, again, we would suggest there's no rear abutter. It is train tracks, and then from there, open space until you get to Columbus Avenue. And finally, off-street parking insufficient. We are compliant with the residential parking. We have 9 parking spaces for 9 condominium units, so they each will have their own parking space. However, we would need off-street parking relief for the commercial parking. The co-working space requires 6 spaces, and we are suggesting not to provide any, based on the fact that we're within a quarter-mile walk of Roxbury Crossing T Station. We're within very close proximity to Columbus Avenue and numerous bus routes. And there is off-street parking. I believe current street parking on Terrace Street is 2-hour minimum, so there is the opportunity for on-street parking for those who would be using the co-working space. Finally, we did go through a robust community process. We did meet with the Mission Hill Neighborhoods Housing Services, Community Alliance Mission Hill. We received support letters from both, which we've submitted in advance, and I will submit now for the board. We held an abutter meeting with the mayor's office, and we have letters of support from a direct abutter and from several other property owners on Terrace Street and Allegheny Street.
Is this going to be a LEED certified building?
LEED certified?
We don't.
We're looking into it. Sorry, we're looking into it, but we can't confirm that right now.
So there are aspects to it that will be LEED certifiable, the green roof and things like that. I'm not sure with this size project if they're going to go for that, but I think it's on the table.
How are the plans, Mr. Pisani?
Drawings are adequate.
Any questions from the board?
This is going to be on, I'm looking at this. This is opposite to the Mississippi side of the street, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
The other side of the street.
Oh.
Yep.
It's next to the building materials co-op,
Yes,
that additional shed that they have there?
Yes.
Just looking at the rendering, the garage doors, how do they work?
We want them to be either opaque or clear glass, sliding.
They slide side to side?
Yes, that's the plan for now.
And a car fits in?
Yes.
Yeah, because of the shallowness of the lot, there wasn't an ability to put parking underneath and to dig under. So the hope here is to make it not look like a parking garage on the ground level, to have open space and glass.
From a
Yeah.
design point of view, it looks nice. I just don't quite understand how the car fits there.
What's the driveway width? It's
The
12-foot
dri- it should
driveway
be
width.
12 feet. There should be
Yeah.
at least 10 foot clear in in that
Yeah.
dimension, and it's about 10 or 11 feet setback from the edge of the street.
And there's no expectation, excuse me, there's no expectation of on-street parking.
No.
Okay.
No, there's no expectation for, well, not for the residences. The idea here is we're zoning compliant with a parking space for each 2-bedroom. Likely for the shared working space, if somebody were to drive, there would be on-street parking for those individuals because we don't have parking for them. But the hope is with the shared working environment and the type of folks that they're looking to attract to use this, the artists and 21st century artists, that they would not necessarily need a vehicle. We're not talking artists with big easels and paintings, more computer graphics and engineers, things like that, which are more transportable.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? Is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal?
Madam Chair, members of the board, Giselle Gurr at the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. We would like to go on record in support. We have met with the abutters at an abutters meeting. They also have the support of NHS and Community Alliance of Mission Hill with no grave concerns at the point in time, so we'd like to go on record in support.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Alicia Del Vento here on behalf of Representative Jeffrey Sanchez. The representative would like to go on record in support of this project.
Thank you. Is anybody here to speak in opposition? May I have a motion, please?
Make a motion to approve with continued BPDA design review.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. You're all set. Good
Thank you
luck.
very much. We appreciate it.
Calling BOA 810061, 43 to 45 Waverly Street. This is an addition of 2 studio units at the lower level and repairs to the exterior envelope of the existing building. The violation is Article 51, Section 8. 5 units is forbidden. Article 51, Section 9, open space is insufficient. Article 51, Section 9, the floor-to-area ratio is excessive. Article 51, Section 9, 51-9.4, main entrance must face the front lot line. Article 51, Section 9, the additional lot area for additional dwelling unit is insufficient. And Article 51, Section 56, off-street parking is insufficient. Name and address for the record, please.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board, Attorney Derek Small. Business address of 15 Broad Street, Boston, Mass. 02109. With me today is the architect, Troy DePisa, and the owner of the property, Sergio Magno. We are here today seeking relief to change the legal occupancy.
This is Article 51,
That's correct.
so this is Alston Brighton. It's not...
No, this is
No?
Roxbury.
Roxbury, okay. Right, it's 52. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
So we are here today seeking relief to change the legal occupancy of the building from 6 residential units to 8 residential units, creating 2 garden-level units. Basically, we're here to legalize what's already there. My client purchased the property. The units in the basement were existing. This is in conjunction with an overall renovation of the building, interior and exterior, as we proceed.
Who's the owner of this lot?
Chairman Mayor, Sergio Magno. The zoning sub-district is a 3F4000, and the zoning violations are as follows. Use regulations is a forbidden use. It's already a 6-family residential unit, so it's existing non-conforming. The open space is required is 5,120. We have 2,500. Madam Chair, the FAR is 0.8. We're coming in at 0.9. Main entrance to the front lot line. The main entrance isn't changing in the building. It's still in the front of the building as it exists currently.
So it's in front of Waverly?
That's
and
correct.
Okay.
The additional lot area is 2,000 per unit. We have none, and parking is insufficient. The requirement is 1 per additional unit, and we have none. With regard to community process, in November, we met with Project Right, and then in December, we had an abutters meeting sponsored by the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services, in which a number of the abutters came out in support of the project. I have about 7 or 8 letters here from direct abutters in support of the project, and the team will pause now and take any questions the board may have.
So tell us, what's the floor-to-ceiling height in this proposed unit, these proposed units?
We're gonna have 8 feet.
It's 8 feet?
Yeah.
And what's the size of each unit?
Each unit is about 470. So combined, they're like a little over 900 square feet for
Each
both.
unit is 470
Yes.
square feet? Okay. And there's no way of combining the units so you have a larger unit in the basement?
No, because the existing stair, it's right in the middle on all the utilities. So yeah, it's a lot more convenient to just have two studio units. And the second means of egress are already there for like each unit. Because the units pretty much existed, all we were doing is making them more, a more livable space.
You can go ahead and speak, Sergio.
The units are lined up 3 and 3 side by side, and then you have the main stair in the middle, so just...
Because I was just wondering if there was a breakthrough in the storage area in the rear, the proposed storage area in the rear, that would make it one really decent unit down there.
But we, I guess, have looked at it from the scenario of creating 2 smaller units, which I guess we believe are maybe a better fit for that neighborhood in terms of delivering more kind of workforce type housing.
So the front of the unit will be disguised by the stairs, right? Does it look like there's a handicap set of
Right, there's a handicap ramp existing.
So the front of the unit essentially will have no access to sunlight or light in that part of the building.
Right, we do have windows. There are windows along the side because the grade falls dramatically, as you see in the sections. And you pretty much enter onto grade in the rear of the unit. You can enter and exit onto grade in the rear.
Okay. How are the plans, Mr. Bazzani?
The drawings are adequate.
Yeah. Any questions from the board?
Yeah, just a quick question. I'm just looking at the photograph you provided. I see 9 mailboxes. Is that correct, or is it a 6-family, or is it
It's a 6-family.
It's a 6-family.
Mailboxes? No? The 3 in the middle aren't mailboxes?
What's it
No.
being used as now?
6
Six
family.
units?
Yeah, there's
There's no
6.
illegal units in there?
No.
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 So you're not trying to legalize these units? These are new units then? These
They
two
already
units,
exist.
They exist?
Yes, the two
So
did.
so there's 8 units in this building?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay.
But the 2 bottom units prior to my client owning them they're illegal.
And
We're
they weren't
seeking to
very
legalize it
livable.
as part of the renovation.
So just
So you
know,
are creating those 2 units
They exist.
in the basement? Well, I'm looking at the existing basement, existing drawing,
They exist, right?
A100.
Right.
And it is different from what you're proposing.
Exactly. Exactly. The units exist, however, they aren't designed very well. So all we were doing is really moving a few walls inside to make, a bathroom.
Right, but you're adding the kitchen, right?
Yes, correct.
correct. If you don't mind, if I can just
Go ahead.
speak. This, they exist in basically in a partial development, if you will. And this is a pattern of the prior owners' history of doing unpermitted and unprofessional work. And I think legalizing these 2 units is just part of one component, important component of rehabbing really the entire building. And to date we've probably spent about $60,000 on exterior improvements, and believe with the improvement of the units on the inside, we will be able to present a dramatically beautified building with improved streetscape and landscape.
And then the 29, so the mechanical rooms will be accessed separately.
Correct.
Let me just see, so explain to me A115. So somebody would come down the stairs, how does the circulation work? I see the second means to the rear.
Right.
Can you explain the stairwell circulation right there?
So when you enter the building off of Waverly, you would go down the stair and then you enter into a vestibule, which then gives you the option of either going into the mechanical room or into your unit. So the mechanical room is separate from the unit, just for service purposes. And then if you need to exit that unit, you can exit in the rear onto grade, onto existing grade.
But to Mr. Arjo's earlier point, since you're doing major work in that mechanical room, isn't there a way that mechanical room, some of that area can be given to the unit?
So originally that mechanical room was larger, and what you're looking at in the proposed design, it has been reduced. So I'm proposing to consolidate it, which, we can do that. Right now, the mechanical room, I don't think can go any smaller.
Now, that's the mechanical room for 4 units, right? Each mechanical room serves 4 units. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
So each unit in the building then, what's the size of each of the other units in the building?
The other units are about a little over 600 square feet. Yeah, they're just single.
1 bedrooms?
Yes, they're all single.
So, just to sort of summarize, right now it's a 6-unit building, side by side, 3 on each. And what is in the basement now is part of the first floor. There are bedrooms currently in the basement.
There are. Basically, it was two partially built apartments that never kind of got through the entire process by the former owner. So I think what we're trying to do is, given that we believe we have...
So it'll be 8 units when you're...
Correct.
Yes.
I guess what I'm asking is the current state, those basement units, are they connected to one of the upper units?
No, it's just a main stair that would get you down to the basement, if you will.
Were they occupied?
They haven't been occupied since we took ownership,
Yeah.
but they may have been, because there were bedrooms down there.
Yeah.
Like an SRO?
Bedrooms down there, there weren't any bathrooms, there weren't any kitchens.
There were bathrooms
There were
down
bathrooms.
there. Yeah. Yes.
There were bathrooms but no kitchen.
Right.
Was
Correct.
a bedroom, a bathroom.
And like a living
I
area.
think that we just have to take a step back and say, regardless of what was in there, do we look at 470 square feet as an adequate size for a unit? And I think, and I guess the floor to ceiling height is 8 feet.
Yes.
And it opens out to the back.
Yes, in the back. You walk
Okay.
onto grade.
Okay. Yeah, so that's the question before us, I suppose, is given what we've seen in our history on projects, is that adequate?
Well, Mr. Arjo, the DRA standard for a studio that's transportation oriented is 450 square feet. So the question then comes about, how close to transportation is this?
We're about a block away from Warren Street, corner of Waverly and Warren, which services many of the buses, 23, 22, and we're probably about a half mile from Delhi Station. And if you walk the other way, it's about 2 blocks to Blue Hill Ave, which is also serviced by the 18, the 20, and other public transportation buses.
The issue of the parking mitigation, because we're increasing the units, but we're not increasing parking.
We don't have room on the site to park, no.
Right. And just for some perspective, with parking, of the 6 units that we have today, there are 3 cars. So if you kind of bring that ratio of adding 2 more units, maybe there'll be 1 more car. Obviously, we can't control who drives, who doesn't drive, but the fact that we're a block from Warren and half a mile from Dudley, we'd expect more kind of transit-oriented renters.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? Is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal?
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Joshua McFadden, Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. I'd like to go on record and support this project. We had an abutters meeting back in December, on December 5th, approximately, where all of the abutters expressed support. And since then, we actually have about 7 letters of recommendation on the project as well.
Is anybody here to speak in opposition?
Madam Chair, members of the board, my name is Sana Mullen from District 7 City Councilor Kim Janey's office, and we would like to go on the record in opposition to this project due to complaints from the 9th Streets United Association, which includes Waverly Street, and they said they oppose this project due to density.
Thank you.
Good morning, Karen Foley, Councilor Sabi George's office, and we echo Councilor Janey's opposition. Thank you.
Thank you. Given that information, may I have a motion, please?
I'm going to make a motion to support with BPDA design review and,
No, it's
inside.
Voluntary.
It's inside, okay. So I'll make a motion to support.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. You're all set.
POA 796-631, 341 to 343 Savin Hill Ave. This is a change from a 2-family to a 3-family. Violation Article 65, Section 42. Off-street parking requirements is insufficient. Article 65, Section 60-8. 3-family detached dwelling is forbidden. Article 65, Section 9. A floor-to-area ratio is excessive. And Article 65, Section 9. The height is excessive. Name and address for the record, please.
My name is Michael Kinahan, 341 Savin Hill Ave, and my brother Anthony Kinahan, also of 341, 343 Savin Hill Ave.
Can you tell us what you're proposing, please?
It's an existing two-family home right now with 3 floors. The first floor is a 2-bedroom unit. The second and third floor combined are 4 bedrooms, and they make up a unit. 2 bedrooms on the second floor and 2 bedrooms on the third floor. We're in the middle of a complete renovation now, and moving forward, we'd like to change the 6-family home to a 5-family home with the first floor. 6-bedroom to a 5-bedroom, with the third floor being its own unit, a 1-bedroom unit. The first floor would remain as a 2-bedroom unit. The second floor would remain as a 2-bedroom unit, and it will be owner-occupied by myself and my fiance, who's behind me, and the first floor, and my brother and his fiance in the second floor. And we'd like to get the third floor as its own unit.
So what was the size of the proposed unit?
The size won't change of the building or the floor area ratio.
Converting the unit from 2 to, the building from a 2 to a 3, what is the size of the proposed third unit?
About 700 square feet.
Yeah.
It's about 1,700.
Okay. How are the plans, Mr. Bazzani?
Drawings are adequate.
And speak to us about the parking.
We have 2 parking spots in the backyard. We met with the Civic Association and the abutters, who didn't have issues with the existing project without additional parking. We're also going from a 6-bedroom to a 5-bedroom unit, so we're actually lessening the occupancy.
Okay. Any questions from the board? Is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal?
Madam Chair, members of the board, Patrick Fandel, Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. We're here to speak in support of this proposal. There was a butters meeting held, and they were in support of the project. Thank you.
Welcome aboard, Patrick.
Is anybody here to speak in opposition? May I have a motion, please?
A motion to approve with continued, there's no review there, right? So I'm just gonna make a motion to approve.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. You're all set.
Thank you.
Calling BOA 765-128, 1014 to 1026A, Blue Hill Avenue. This is a change actually to include the proposed second-story addition for 3 new dwelling units and renovate. Violation to Article 60, Section 17. Open space is insufficient. Article 67, Section 17. The floor-to-area ratio is excessive. Article 60, Section 40. Parking is insufficient. Name and address for the record, please.
Arthur Chu, architect for the project, 1 Billings Road, Quincy, Mass.
Greenway, owner, along with my husband, of 1014 to 1026A Blue Hill Avenue.
Tell us what's being proposed.
This is an existing building that currently takes up about 90% of the lot. We'd like to add a second floor with 3 residential units in the building.
Second floor with 3 residential units, and what's the current occupancy?
It's a dental office and a hair salon currently. The landlord's daughter runs the dental practice on the first floor.
And the hair salon is proposed to remain?
Yes.
For now.
I know this property, yes. And tell us about the sizes of the unit, the proposed units.
The units are 958, 1,070, and 1,113 square feet.
Okay. And the violations are open space. Tell us about the parking insufficiency.
1 space is required per unit. This is on the corner of Blue Hills Ave and Callender Street. There's 111 feet in front of the building, which is currently, the customers of the commercial area use that. And at night, it's not well used, so we're hoping to park on the street. It's also on a bus line. Oh, sorry. There's 111, this building takes 111th Street on Blue Hills Ave, and people park on the street when they're using the commercial spaces during the day. At night when the residential spaces be used, it's underutilized currently. This also on bus line on Blue Hills Ave.
Is there a bus stop in front of the property?
No, directly in front. How far?
Above, on the other block below,
It's the next block.
the next block over, there's a bus stop in front of, across, you have to cross over Calendar Ave to, or Calendar Street for the bus stop.
How are the plans designed?
The drawings are adequate.
Second being speed grass, etc.?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions from the board? Is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal?
Madam Chair, members of the board, Whitney Celestin here with the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services, here to speak in support of this proposal and agreeing with BPD's recommendation for a 5-foot step back for privacy for the direct abutter next door on Calendar Street. Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Walter Applewhite, Council McCarthy's office. We'd like to go on record as support.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Jawan Skeens, representing District 4 City Council President Andrea Campo. We would like to go on record in support of this project.
Is anybody here to speak in opposition? Jeff, the BRA had a recommendation?
No, the BRA did not.
Okay. May I have a motion, please?
Make a motion to approve with continued BPDA design review.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. You're all set. Good luck.
Thank you.
06-243, 23 to 25 Bowden Avenue. This is renovation in addition and change occupancy from 2 residential units to 6 residential units. The violation is Article 65, Section 8. A multifamily dwelling unit is a forbidden use. Article 65, Section 9, the floor-to-area ratio is excessive. Article 65, Section 9, the height is excessive, 35 feet is the maximum allowed. Article 65, the height is excessive, 2.5 stories is the maximum allowed. Name and address for the record, please.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is James Christopher with the business address of 415 Neponset Ave, RCA LLC. We're the project architects, joined to my right by John Pham, the project owner. Just as a matter of record, just a note for the record, the proposal now is currently for a 5-unit building. After we met with the civic group and the abutters a few times. We made some revisions to the plans based on their comments, and one was to drop 1 unit and create a larger common roof deck, which resulted in the increased height of 39 feet at the head houses for the 2 stairwells to the common roof deck.
Okay, so please describe the project to us.
So currently, it's a 2-family residential building on an 11,758 square foot lot. There is minimal change to the footprint of the building. There'll be some bows at the front of the building, and then there'll be a 3rd-story addition where it's currently a 2.5-story building with a mansard-style roof. The unit breakdown is units 1 and 2, 2-bed, 2-bath, 980 square feet. Units 3 and 4 are 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,329 square feet and 1,317 square feet, respectively. And Unit 5 is 1,077 square feet, 2 beds, 2 baths with a home office. There is interior parking at grade in the rear, which is existing, and there's no change to that.
How many spaces is that?
There's 1 garage spot, and we've also committed to the neighbors that we would create. We have an access of open space at the rear of the property to create some more on-site parking at grade in the rear.
How many spaces do you anticipate?
3, at a minimum of 3, so that we would be proposing 7 parking spaces, which meets the requirement.
So your height is excessive because it's floors versus, okay? And the floor area ratio?
Is currently 0.4, will be at 0.6, Madam Chair.
And what's the zoning district?
It's 2F 6,000.
Okay. How are the plans, Mr. Bazzani?
Drawings are adequate.
And access is through a head house and that's a common deck?
Correct.
Okay. Any questions from the board? Is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal?
Madam Chair, members of the board, Flavia De Vega, Mayor's Office, Neighborhood Service, would like to go on record in support of this application. We met with the abutters and the Civic Association, and they met all the concerns. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Jawan Skeens, representing District 4 City Council President Andre Campbell. We would like to go on record in support of this project.
Thank you. Is anybody here to speak in opposition? May I have a motion, please?
Motion to approve, BPDA design review.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. You're all set. Good luck.
Thank you.
Calling the next case, calling BOA 801-305, 91 Bloomfield Street. This is adding a rear stairwell from the basement to the second floor, remodeling the first floor kitchen with new cabinets, flooring, countertop, and associated plumbing and electrical. Minor renovation to the second floor kitchen. The violation is Article 65, Section 9. The floor-to-area ratio is excessive. Name and address for the record, please.
Maria Carvalho, 91 Bloomfield Street.
So tell us, will you be speaking too?
I'll be doing more this speaking.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is this a one or a two family?
This is 2 family and a half.
2 family and a half?
Yes.
What does that mean?
We'll have the third floor, the attic. First floor, second floor, and the attic.
And is the attic attached to the second floor unit?
Yes.
Okay. And tell us what you're proposing to do.
The main thing we're doing is for the first floor, we have a rear stairwell that leads a basement, first floor, second floor, and it's outdated. So we like to remove that and add a stairway outside. And then once we remove that, we'll give it a space, more space on the first floor. The tenant on the first floor right now is my mom, which is very hard to go back and forth on that narrow stairway to go upstairs or to go to the basement. So by removing that, we'll get a new stairway outside, and it gives us more room to the first floor kitchen.
And is there living space in the basement, or is that just laundry? And
It's just a laundry and a utility room.
And so the way the house is divided is the first floor has its own unit, and then the second and third floor are a second unit.
That's correct.
Okay. How are the plans, Mr. Bazzani?
The drawings are adequate. Now, is this a sprinkler building? Do you have a sprinkler?
No, don't.
It's a two-family dwelling, Mr. Bazzani.
Yes, I know.
I have an extra copy.
Any questions from the board? Is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal?
Madam Chair, members of the board, Flavia De Vega, Mayor's Office, Neighborhood Service, would like to go on record in support of this application. They've met with the community group and the abutters. They have support. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Jawan Skeens, representing District 4 City Council President Andre Campbell. We would like to go on record in support of this project.
Is anybody here to speak in opposition? May I have a motion, please?
Motion to approve. Continued BBA, you don't need it? Okay. Motion to approve.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. You're all set. Good luck.
Thanks so much.
Calling BOA 790-909, 15 Whitford Street. This is a change from a 2-family dwelling to a 3-family dwelling. Existing condition, no work to be performed. The violation is Article 67, Section 32, off-street parking is insufficient. Article 67, Section 8, a basement apartment is forbidden. Article 67, Section 8, a 3-family dwelling is forbidden. Article 67, Section 9, the lot area is insufficient. Article 67, Section 9, the floor-to-area ratio is excessive. Article 67, Section 9, the building height, number of stories is excessive. And Article 67, Section 9, usable open space is insufficient. Name and address for the record, please.
Patrick Mahoney with the business address of 160 Federal Street. Madam Chair, members of the board, we're here proposing to legalize an existing building. It's a two-family building right now. Unit 1 is in the lower level. Unit 2 is what's proposed as Unit 2 and 3. So with this proposal is to subdivide Unit 2 and 3 as shown on the plans.
Was this project before us, this board, in the past?
I don't believe so, Madam Chair.
Okay. So tell us how this is going to work. There are a lot of violations. First, start off with sort of telling us how this is going to work.
Again, the existing building is a two-family dwelling unit. By the creation of the subdivision of Unit 2, which will, as proposed, consist of Unit 2 and 3 on the second floor and the third and attic level floor. By making that level as living space or legalizing that area as living space, it would be a height violation for a number of stories. It is a 2F district, so it is a use violation. The basement apartment, as it's cited, isn't a violation, it's existing. It's part of the legal use as a two-family.
It's part of the legal use and the building
Correct.
chart shows that?
That's correct.
Okay, so tell us about that basement, floor to ceiling height, and what the uses of that basement.
It's an existing apartment, approximately 1,000 square feet.
Sorry, it's an existing apartment?
It is, yes.
And it's 1,000 square feet. What else?
Approximately, it's an 8-foot ceiling height.
Okay, and, okay. And tell us about the size of the rest of the proposed units.
The rest of the building, or Unit 2 as it is now, is there's 2 kitchens in it. It's my client and his mother is on the first floor. And they're seeking to subdivide that into 2 units, making it Unit 2 and 3. There is sufficient parking to accommodate.
Size of Unit 2?
Right now, it would be approximately 2,100 square feet. As proposed, each unit would be about 1,100 square feet.
And the parking?
The parking on the second page of the site survey, excuse me, on the first page of the plan, there's a garage in the rear with an existing 2 tandem parking spaces, 2 new parking spaces with an existing curb cut off of Augustus that's existing now. There is parking as well on Whitford Street on either side.
So there's how many curb cuts then?
None proposed. They're all existing.
Existing 2 curb
Yep. There's no proposed work with the exception of a door in the middle of Unit 2, which would subdivide Unit 2 and 3. The exterior and interior has been completed for some time.
And everything is legal? Or was this done and then, with the parking, etc.?
It's a legal 2-family, and that work's been done. The second kitchen added to Unit 2 is done in a short form.
There's a lot of maneuvering involved with parking, right?
From the garage there would be, Mr. Ehrlich, there is a tandem space, but with the
in front of it,
right on the rear from Whitford. On the other side of the building on Augustus, there's 2 spaces and an open curb cut, and there's another 2 spaces from the back. It's
hire a traffic cop.
There's 3 parking spaces off of Augustus, and likewise, same 3 spaces off of, or 4 spaces off of Whitford.
3 off of Whitford that are existing, yeah. The new spaces that the curb cut is there but isn't being used as parking would be off of Augustus.
Okay. Are you adding a new stair on the front from the second floor?
No, everything is existing, Mr. Pisani.
So how are the plans, Mr. Bizzani?
Plans are adequate.
Any questions from the board?
I'm still trying to understand how it divides.
Yep.
You refer the appropriate drawings so we can get a better sense of what's happening?
Certainly. The existing two-family building consists of a basement apartment in the lower level. The second, Unit 2 consists of the first floor, or excuse me, the second floor, third floor, and part of the attic. The work has been completed under a short form permit. Part of this process is to legalize the floor area in that work, which on drawing A101 in the upper right, figure 3 and 4, you can see where the proposal to subdivide Unit 2 into Unit 2 and 3 would be. Their applicant's mother lives on the second floor, which is the first level of Unit 2, and my client lives upstairs in the third and fourth floor of Unit 2, which we are proposing to make Unit 3. The second kitchen has been installed under a short form permit, which is sufficient and perfectly legal, provided they don't change occupancy, which now they are seeking to do, and thus requiring zoning work, putting me here before you today.
So with a short form, you can put 2 kitchens in one unit?
You can put 70 kitchens if you have room, but you can't change the occupancy. And that has to be done on a long form permit. And it wasn't done with any ill intention. It's again, my client and his mother on the first floor.
Excuse me, but I'm still stuck on the front elevation with the rabbit warren stair that runs up and around. And did this project ever come before the board? Because I can't believe the BRA was
Not to my knowledge, but I honestly don't know.
Okay. Any other questions? In the meantime, let's get some testimony. Is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal?
Madam Chair, members of the board, John Allison, Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services, on behalf of Dan Murphy, we'd like to go on record in support. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody here to speak in opposition?
Good morning. My name is Diane Broderick. I live in West Roxbury, Mass. I am actually the daughter of Evelyn Broderick, who owns the property.
Who owns this property, 15 Whitford?
Evelyn Broderick.
Okay.
She's my mother. Next week she'll be 93 years old and she has dementia or some form of dementia. So what I wanted to point out are the violations.
Are you in support or in opposition?
I am in opposition of this project being approved.
So you're wait a second.
Oh, yeah, I'm
so
confused on that.
your parent owns the property.
Correct.
And how is this how did this come here if it's not if the owner doesn't support it?
I'm not clear on your question.
Are you an abutting property or are you this actual address?
Please.
Neither. I'm the daughter of Evelyn.
No, I understand that. Your mother owns the property?
My mother owns the property.
And this gentleman's not representing your mother?
No.
No, I'm talking about
Oh, this one? As far as I know, he represents Christopher, my brother. That's what I was told.
I see. Okay.
That's the emails that I got from
We're just looking for some sort of clarification, that's all.
You know what? That's exactly what I would like, clarification on all of this. And my sister Elizabeth is here with me as well, also in opposition of this project.
Okay, you know what? Does this need to be taken offline so you guys can sort all this family stuff?
Might be a good idea. This is news to me.
So may I have a deferral, please? Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Can we get a date?
We're going to be June 26th.
Thank you.
Thank you. Will that be at 10:30?
11:30.
We're hoping in between that you guys can meet together and try to come to some resolution.
Certainly. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to call the next, actually, it's 11:33. I'm going to call the 11:30s for deferrals or withdrawals. Richard, addresses, please.
Good
Morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. 9 Chelsea Street.
For the record, calling BOA 698-906, 9 Chelsea Street. Name and address for the record, please.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Richard Lins, 245 Sumner Street, East Boston, on behalf of the petitioner. This matter has been deferred previously. This is sort of stuck in a Article 80/landmarks review process. We are hopefully making some progress on that and would ask for a relatively medium deferral.
We'd be into July. Is something July?
That could work.
We have July 10th or the 31st?
31st.
Okay. Make a motion for deferral?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, you have the dates, you're all set.
Thank you very much.
Let's see. Address, Nick, please.
2931 Ward Street.
You have 2 of them?
Yes, sir.
What's the other one?
The other one is actually from a CBA subcommittee hearing, 141 to 143 Glenway. It's listed under recommendations, but...
Yeah, I can't go into that until then.
Okay.
So I'm going to call, and for the record, you said Ward Street, correct? BOA 779-357, 29 to 31 Ward Street. Name and address for the record, please.
Attorney Nick Zazula, McDermott, Quilty, and Miller, 28 State Street, Suite 802 in Boston. The initial hearing for this was back in February 27th. Since then, we've engaged in constructive discussions with the abutters in the Civic Association in regard to requested project revisions. They are now actually in support of a revised project, the Andrews Square Civic, and I have a letter from them today in support of that project. But as a result of those discussions, we need to file new plans in order to obtain a variance for parking. And so we're asking for some time in order to do that. The new plan should be filed this week, and we don't want to lose the ERT number and go back to a new project. And in discussions with the city, that's what was decided upon.
Have a motion, please.
Motion to defer.
Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The date, please.
Well, with July 10th.
Okay.
Okay.
Am I not?
You had requested Glenway?
Yeah, is that I think that was supposed to be listed under rediscussion after the
So you're ready
subcommittee.
to go ahead today?
No, ma'am. Unfortunately, we need...
I'm going to request a deferral.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay?
Do you want to do that? We
Yes,
can't do
let's, no, it's here, 141 to 143 Glenway is under rediscussion, so we can go ahead
I'm sorry.
with the deferral.
You just did. On which one?
The one at the bottom of the page
Okay.
3.
I thought he was going to another one.
Yeah.
BOA 807-998, 141 to 143 Glenway. Name and address for the record, please.
Again, Attorney Nick Zazula, McDermott, Quilty, and Miller, 28 State Street, Suite 802 here in Boston. Madam Chair, this was in front of the subcommittee on April 26th. If you may recall, the subcommittee asked us to provide revised drawings or new drawings showing the driveway on the other side of the property. In between that time and now, they've done a site visit at the property. The building's been built already, and it appears that they are very close to being in compliance with the 10-foot setback. And so what they're asking for more time to do is to retain an independent surveyor, a new surveyor, to survey the as-built.
Whatever it is, you're asking for a deferral.
Yes, yeah.
Is there a second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye. 710.
Opposed?
There's nothing early. It's not allowed. You don't have any room on the 26th or it should be a very.
Yeah, I guess we could push into the 26th.
If that's possible, it'd be preferred. That would allow for, it's a D&D, so it would allow for a potential sale on August 1st, which I know is important. Thank you.
626.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Are there any other deferrals or withdrawals for 11:30? Hearing none, we'll go back to the 10:30. Oh.
So what's next on the agenda? Is at William Street?
Deferring to 11:30s. I'm calling 11:30s. Calling the next 2 cases for 11:30. Calling BOA 754-552, 34 to 36 Williams Avenue. There's a companion case, BOA 754-553, 38 Williams Avenue. This is subdividing a lot at 36 Williams Ave in Hyde Park. This lot will have a total of 8,703 square feet. The new subdivided lot at 38 Williams will contain a total of 6,585 square feet to accommodate the new construction. The violations, Article 69, Section 8, the lot width is insufficient. Article 69, Section 8, a side yard is insufficient. This is for 38 Williams Avenue. This is a construction of a new two-family house on a lot next to an existing single-family home. The violations, Article 69, Section 8, two-family dwelling is forbidden. Article 69, Section 9, the lot width is insufficient. And Article 69, Section 9, the rear yard is insufficient. Name and address for the record, please.
Ronnie Baez, 36 Williams Ave.
Daniel Damon, 1926 Barry Road, Hardwick, Mass.
I did both.
Okay, tell us what's being proposed.
So the proposal is to subdivide the existing lot where my house is located. Right now, it's a single-family home, and it's a 15,000 square foot lot that we're proposing to subdivide and build a two-family dwelling. The design for the two-family will be a standard 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house.
Just tell us give us a tell us about 3436.
It's a single-family home. I'm not sure why it has the two addresses, but it's just one.
It's a one-family home.
It's a one-family home, correct.
Okay. And so if this proposed subdivision goes through, how many square feet will be on that lot?
The lot will have about 8,703 square feet.
Okay. And then 38 would have 6,585 square feet?
That's correct, Madam Chair.
And is that also proposed one family?
It's a two-family.
It's a proposed two-family?
That's correct.
Okay, and what zoning district is this? Is this a one-family zoning district?
It's a one of 6,000, correct.
One family, 6,000. Okay, so that's what's triggering that.
That variance, that's correct.
It should be, okay. Tell us about the lot and the rear and side yard and the, let's see, the rear and side yard insufficiency on these proposals.
So the minimum side requirement is 60 feet.
Is 60 feet?
No, the side requirement
Should
is,
be like 10 or 12, something like that.
it's 20 feet, it's a corner lot.
Oh, I see.
Okay, so we've got a side and a front, it's a 20-foot setback on the front.
And this is 34 or 36?
34, 36.
Okay.
And because it's a corner lot, we've got only 11 feet on the side.
I see.
So
Okay.
I guess the conundrum is we've got a front and a side on a corner. They both can't be a front or a side.
Parking for 34, 36?
It's in the rear of the lot.
Okay. And how about 38?
There's 6 parking spaces there, and we're proposing adding an additional 4 for 38 Williams.
There'll be 10 spaces
In
at the
total for
rear
the two
of
properties.
34 to 36.
That's correct.
Tell us how 38 is going to work.
I'm sorry?
Tell us how 38 is going to work. Where is the parking for proposed number 38?
The proposed parking, it's adjacent to the 6 parking spaces for 34, 36, so a total of 10 for both properties.
38 would be accessed via 34, 36?
It's on the Highland Street. It's accessed from the street side.
So what is the size of that curb cut? The curb cut's going to be huge.
I believe there's a misunderstanding here. In the back, I'm just getting caught up. Mr. Baez, I did the plans 2 years ago. Mr. Baez has handled this. All on his own.
What's the side street, the name of the side street?
It's Highland Street. It's a side street.
Okay.
There's a curb cut on Williams, right?
Yes.
Yes, it's a curb cut in the front on Williams. That was the old driveway. Right, that's the old driveway for the existing home.
Okay. So the new lot will use that same curb cut? or-
No, we'll use the curb cut in the back on Highland. I don't know how updated your survey is.
You should have the same.
Google map, that's all.
Okay. You'll see it.
So the existing property prior to the subdivision, in fact, has 2 curb cuts. It has a curb cut on Williams,
That's correct.
and it has a curb cut on Highland.
That's correct.
Is that correct? On the Highland curb cut, how many cars are you parking there?
There are 6 parking spaces right now.
And so you're doing tandem, how many tandems?
Adding 4 more on that side.
No. Are they 6 because you're doing two tandems of 3, or? Are you
Oh,
doing
2 tandems of 3,
tandems
correct. 2 of 3.
2 or 3. Okay, so that exists on Highland. Now, you want a new curb cut adjacent to that on Highland
Correct.
to put in how many cars?
4 cars.
4 cars, again, tandem.
Yes. 2 of 2.
I don't see how you do it. Because what your survey shows on Highland for the new lot is simply a lot that is only 20 feet deep. That is the size of one space. In order to do 2 tandems back to back, that parking area would have to be 40 feet deep. And I don't really understand how you do the 6 existing on Highland because we only have 48 feet. Okay, to do 6 full-size cars would require 60 feet.
Yeah,
I
I'm
mean,
just
there's
catching
a
up
major
on this, but I
discrepancy
think
between what you're
there's...
saying and what the drawings are showing.
I'm just catching up on this. It's been 2 years since I gave Rowney these plans, and he's been doing all of this himself, so I'm just trying to catch up on it. I visited the lot. What we've got, it looks like a 35-foot curb cut now on Williams. This is the survey that I'm looking at. I don't know if you guys have it.
This curb cut can't be 35 feet. This curb cut would have to be, what, 10?
12 feet is the max.
12
12
feet is
is
the
max.
max.
So what's going
And
on
so
here?
the combined curb cut then on
Well,
Highland
it sounds,
is huge.
okay, Mr. Bazzani, it sounds like the applicants have a little bit of homework to do. Sounds like, yes. May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The date, please.
July 10th.
And, you know, when you guys look at this, please try and make sure that each lot functions on its own merit, especially if there's a subdivision proposed, okay? Okay, next case.
Calling the next case, calling BOA 762-227, 34 Roseway Street. This is driveway for 2 parking vehicles. The violation, Article 10, Section 1, proposed parking is less than 5 feet from the side lot line. Article 55, Section 40, the proposed parking has insufficient maneuvering area. Name and address for the record, please.
Patrick Mahoney with the business address of 160 Federal Street. We're proposing a curb cut application which does require zoning relief. The maneuverability is because there is 2 parking spaces, one in front of the other, positioned in a tandem parking arrangement.
Is this a single family or 2 family? What is it?
It's a 2-family.
And so you're proposing, looking at the building on the left-hand side, curb cut, is there parking on that side of the street?
There's not.
There's no parking, okay? And what's the width of the proposed parking?
The parking is drawn as 8.5 is 20 feet, and the area is 9 feet where it would be placed.
Okay. How are the plans, Mr. Bazzani?
The drawings are adequate.
Any questions from the board? Is there enough room actually there? It looks very narrow.
There's a minimum of 10 feet, so it's a 1 foot.
It's 9 inches difference from what's required. But the parking space is 8.5 by 20, and what's required for one space is 8.5 by 20, and the other space could be as little as 7 by 18. 2 full-size spaces are drawn as a request of the neighborhood. Additionally, the neighborhood, through the process, my client, Mike Dorman, who's here today, had requested, or rather had agreed to put in pervious pavers, which is something that came out at the abutters meeting, a request that was done. There's a fence on the left, but it is sufficient space to fit a vehicle. 8.5 feet is what zoning requires, and that's what's proposed.
And so what's the distance from the property line to the abutting building?
On the next building?
The abutters,
I don't have that information, Madam Chair.
Talking about.
Any questions from the board? And Mr. Bazzani, I forget, did I ask you if the drawings were adequate?
The drawings are adequate. I think both Bob and I would make a recommendation that rather than showing 2 full spaces, you in fact show 1 compact. And
Okay, it might require approval again by PIC, which has been completed,
Why?
because it's already been submitted and approved to PIC.
Well, it's just for the curb, width of the curb
This
cut.
is for the zoning, yeah.
Okay. Well, regardless, is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. Alexandra Valdez, Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. We would like to go on record to support. We did have a very successful abutters meeting as well as a JP zoning meeting. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Shannon Murphy from City Councilor Matt O'Malley's office. The council would like to go on record in support of this project.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Paul Sullivan, on behalf of the council at large, Michael Flaherty. Council do on record in support.
Good afternoon, Karen Foley, Councilor Sabi George's office, would like to go on record in support. Thank you.
Thank you. Is anybody here to speak in opposition? May I have a motion?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion, but I'd like a clarification for this member's education. So it is possible to get PIC approval on things prior to zoning approval?
It's not only possible, it's common practice, but what isn't possible is the curb cut without zoning approval. So there are two independent applications that are required to achieve the desired result. So one can be approved while the other is pending either a ZBA approval, and I'm sure Bob can clarify this, but the work cannot be performed without ZBA approval. But it's the two separate permits. One is a use of premise application for the parking from inspectional services. The other is for the streetscape. And again, I think Bob may want to clarify if I misspoke.
Madam Chair Lady, members of the board, Bob D'Amico, BTD. PIC does approve the curb cut, but they have nothing to do with the width of the driveway. And the minimum driveway that we usually require is 10 feet. But, I mean, 9 foot, I wouldn't argue against it, but I just want the board to know that we do have criteria that states very clearly that a minimum driveway should be 10 feet. It has nothing to do with PIC.
Okay, so I decided to make a motion and then ask for clarification. Okay, make a motion for approval.
Yep.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. You're all set.
Thank you.
Calling the last case for 10:30, calling BOA 800771, 11 Sawyer Terrace. This is to erect a new three-story, three-family dwelling. The violation is Article 51. This is all Section 9. Insufficient minimum lot size, Article 51. Insufficient additional lot area per dwelling unit, Article 51. Insufficient minimum lot width, Article 51. Insufficient minimum lot frontage, Article 51. Excessive FAR, Article 51. Insufficient usable open space per dwelling unit, Article 51. Insufficient front yard setback, Article 51. Insufficient rear yard setback, Article 51. Insufficient side yard setback, and Article 51, Section 56. Off-street parking requirements design. Proposed parking spaces do not meet the minimum dimensions required for parking. Name and address for the record, please.
Good morning, Stephen Miller, McDermott, Quilty and Miller, 28 State Street in Boston. I have with me Mr. Dang, who's the owner of the property. Mr. Dang's contractor was before you in September. I was not representing Mr. Dang at the time, and the board had questions and denied his proposal without prejudice. There was a request for building code relief, which has been removed, and also there was a question about the two lots. Mr. Dang retained our firm a couple of weeks ago. We've done homework on this, provided you with the issue. This was not subdivided, that we're aware of. When Mr. Dang bought the property in 1995, he purchased it. It was two lots. It's been assessed by the city as two lots. I have copies of the tax bills, and I've also given you copies of the assessing online documents.
So hold on, Counsel, so this is a vacant lot?
This is a vacant lot.
This is a vacant lot. It's a pre-existing lot.
Yes.
It's already platted, et cetera.
I'm sorry.
It's a platted pre-existing lot.
Yes.
Okay, so and what's the zoning district?
This is Alston Brighton Neighborhood District.
Yes, but is it
Three
one?
family,
It's a proposed, it's a 3F?
3F, yes.
3F district?
Yes.
Okay, and so I can see the insufficient lot width and lot frontage, that being triggered because of the pre-existing lot?
Yes.
And insufficient minimum lot?
Yes, if you look at the assessing plan, this is on a private way, and this is the last lot at the end of a dead end. The abutting lot to, if you look at the assessing plan, Sawyer Terrace, highlighted are the two lots that Mr. Dang owns, one which has his house on it, and the abutting lot next to it, which is the end of a dead end, which on a private way. So the minimum lot area would be required 6,000. We have 2,900 feet. The minimum lot width would be 45. We have 40. Lot frontage would be 45. We have 40. Floor area ratio is 0.8. We have 0.87. No building height or maximum height. Seeking minimum front yard setback is 20, we have 5, and a minimum side yard setback is 10, we have 3.7. Rear yard setback is 30 feet, and we have 29.9 feet. So the proposal is for a 3-family. They'd be all 2-bedroom units of approximately 900 square feet. Mr. Dang has
I'm having a real question, though. I do have a question.
Yes.
I'm looking at Tony Desidoro's letter here, and does this appear that this is a proposed subdivision?
Well, it's not a proposed subdivision. It's an existing 2 separate lots.
Okay.
Basically, in talking to Mr. Isidoro in the Alston Civic, they were absolutely fine with supporting this again. They were going to support last time, except for this technical issues. And so this is not a proposed subdivision. It exists as 2 separate lots. The deed shows 2 separate lots. And his position was that we did not have to go back again before him, provided that the design was the same as presented to them, which it is.
Okay,
We also have the abutters on the street also support this, both across the street and behind him, and I think I've given you some of those letters.
So please speak to what is being proposed. So it's three units.
3 units.
Tell us the size of the units.
The units are approximately 900 square feet each. They're 2-bedroom units, and there's 3 parking spaces proposed on site for those units.
And what's required? Because that's a violation.
That would be a violation. It's a 1.75 per unit, so there'd be 5 1/4 units, 5 1/4 parking spaces. We're providing 3.
Okay. And this doesn't create any violations for the abutting lot?
It does not.
Okay. How are the plans, Mr. Bazzani?
Drawings are adequate.
And the last time this project was before us, why was it denied?
It was denied without prejudice because in watching, there was a question of the subdivision. Was it a subdivision that did not come before the board appropriately, or how did it become with 2 lots? The contractor that was representing Mr. Dang at that point had no knowledge of any of those issues. There was also an issue of building code, which Mr. Pisani explained to the contractor that on new construction, that the board doesn't grant relief of building code, so we've taken care of that issue.
And how have you taken care of that?
There was handicap access to the first floor, and we've provided handicap access to the first floor as part of the plans.
Okay. Any questions from the board? Is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal?
Madam Chair, members of the board, Warren O'Reilly, Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. We'd like to go on record in support. We had two rounds of abutters meetings, and both were very positive from direct abutters who've lived there for many years. And the Ulster Civic Association were in support at both times, so we'd like to go again in record in support. Thank you.
Morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Daniel Polanco, on behalf of Councilor Mark Siomo, also like to go on record in support. Thank you.
Good morning, Karen Foley, Councilor Sabi George's office. Want to go on record in support. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Annabelle Gomes from the Brighton Austin Improvement Association. We'd like to go on record in support.
Thank you. Is anybody here to speak in opposition? May I have a motion, please?
Motion for approval, BPDA design review.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
You're all set. You're welcome.
Yep. We're going to call for, on the rediscussions for 11:30. Are there any more deferrals or withdrawals? Okay, Madam Chair, we do have one that the councilor has sent in. I'm going to call it in for the record. They are withdrawing. So VOA 757150, 312 to 320 Huntington Ave. We have a letter of withdrawing their case, so I'll make a motion for denial without prejudice.
All those in favor?
Aye. It's all yours, Madam Chair.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we will reconvene at 12:10.
Yeah.
Board of Appeal is back in session. Let's get started. Just make sure cell phones are off and all conversations are taken outside the room.
Call it for the record.
Yep.
Calling the first case of rediscussions, BOA 798-854-228 Webster Street. This is a change of occupancy from a 3-unit residential dwelling to a 5-unit residential dwelling and renovate for new units. The construction of the 4th-story on top of the existing dwelling to include a 4th-story addition in the rear. The violation, Article 10, Section 1, limitation of parking, accessory use 25% of the rear yard space. Article 53, Section 56, insufficient required number of spaces, design and maneuverability. Article 53, Section 8, the use is forbidden. Article 53, Section 9, insufficient additional lot area per unit. Article 53, Section 9, excessive FAR. Article 53, Section 9, building height has been exceeded. Article 53, insufficient open space. Article 53, insufficient rear yard setback. Article 53, location of the main entrance. Article 53, Section 9, number of allowed stories has been exceeded. Article 53, Section 9, insufficient side yard setback. And Article 53, Section 54, screening and buffering requirement, none is proposed. Name and address for the record, please.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. Richard Lins, 245 Sumner Street, East Boston. On behalf of the petitioner, with me is Caitlin Osborne from Embark Studio. She is the architect for this project. Also with me is Brendan O'Hare and Joshua Wild. They are the proposed developers and builders for this particular project. As the Secretary indicated, our proposal here is to completely renovate an existing 3-family dwelling located in the Jeffreys Point section of East Boston. We would propose to change that occupancy from 3 units to 5 units with an addition that both goes vertically into the rear of the building. I provided the board with a packet of the information that we've presented over several meetings to the community, including the Jeffreys Point Neighborhood Association as well as abutters. This proposal would result in a total of 5 units with 5 parking spaces, and this would be intended as home ownership, so these would be converted to condominiums. Each unit would have 1 parking space assigned as shown on the plan. With respect to the unit proposed sizes, they range from anywhere from 950 square feet up to about 1,700 square feet for the proposed bi-level units that are part of the addition. It's a mix of 2- and 3-bedroom units. When this originally was presented to the neighborhood, there were a couple of issues that we did hear. The first was whether or not we would consider expanding the number of 3 bedrooms for this particular project. We went back to the plans, took a look at it, and added 1 additional 3-bedroom, converted one of the 2 bedrooms to a 3-bedroom. The purpose of that and some of the concerns that we do here in the neighborhood is that units that are typically at 2 bedrooms don't necessarily offer an opportunity for family ownership. We certainly recognize that, and that's one of the things that we made a change on. One of the things I think the board will note is the architectural detail of the existing structure at 228 Webster Street. The goal very early on from both Brendan and Josh and Embark was to preserve that architecture, understanding that this neighborhood certainly has a lot of character and a lot of interesting elements from an architectural detail standpoint, keeping the existing architecture of the building and trying to complement that with the design of the facade as we're proposing in the front was a significant and important concern. I'm sure the board will hear from the neighborhood about how this particular area is sort of being targeted for inclusion in the National Register of Historic Places. Certainly we have no objection to inclusion of this property within that, and we'll be sensitive certainly to the design and the elements that would go along with that, as you can see from the plans that have been presented. With respect to the zoning relief that's necessary, the first issue would be multifamily use, because we are proposing more than 3 units on this site, which is located in the 3F 2000 district. We're required to seek relief for a multifamily use. I would point out that this is not the only multifamily use in that section of Jeffreys Point. Multifamilies do exist along that portion of Webster Street. By way of context, and I provided this in the packet as well, our rear abutter is the East Boston Social Centers. It's a community center that has a parking lot located directly to the rear. This building would have very minimal impact on the social center's property. To the immediate right of this property is the former narrow gauge railway site that is currently a 12,000 square foot vacant lot. We do actually have a letter that we've supplied to the board along with 11 other letters of support that there's no objection to this proposal from that particular abutter. If you look at the height of the building that we're proposing, when you look at the context of the neighborhood, the height is consistent with heights along Webster Street, and we feel, although we are proposing a height that is above the allowed limit, is slightly above that at just over 40 feet, but the total height would be 4 stories. Our proposal, based upon the design, would actually bring that fourth story back a bit, so we feel that the context of this building certainly would fit with the flow and the rhythm of that section of Webster Street. With respect to the other relief that's necessary on the right side, again, because it's a 3F 2000 district, 2.5 feet is the setback. We would be within the less than the 2.5 foot setback on the right side, and therefore request a variance for that. But I would point out that is the one closest to the vacant lot on the right-hand side and consistent with the plane of the existing building.
Is that why the east elevation presents a blank wall?
I believe that's
part
correct.
of it?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
With respect to the rear yard, because we are proposing to utilize a portion of the rear yard for some of this addition to the rear, we would require variance for that as well. The required setback is 30 feet. We're proposing 22 feet. The floor area ratio proposed is 1.83. The maximum lot is 1.0. We feel that is consistent with, and although you may hear other opinions on that, we do feel that is consistent with the floor area ratio that exists throughout a good portion of Jeffries Point. And a lot of the newer projects that have been built certainly would have an FAR within that range. I mentioned the height and the parking. With respect to parking, there is existing 3 units already. We are proposing 2 additional units. We feel that under Article 53, the only required additional parking would be the 2 spaces for the 2 additional units. We do have the ability to accommodate 5 spaces. One of the questions that did come up in the process was the maneuverability. We have proofed that out a bit, and we feel that the maneuverability works. We did have an opportunity to maneuver that a little bit, or change it up a little bit and add some more screening and buffering along the rear portion of the property. Happy to answer any questions of the board.
What's the distance, as I look at the building, as we look at the building, between the addition and the abutting building?
So the abutting buildings to the left.
Yep.
So our setback, I believe, is at 3 feet on the left property line. There is additional space in between that property line and the abutting property to the left. It looks like there's actually almost a full driveway space. So I'd say it's about 9 feet additional. So 12-foot total between the 2 buildings.
Okay.
With the intended setback in a 3F district, it would be 5 feet at 2.5 per side.
How are the plans, Mr. Pisani?
The drawings are adequate.
Any questions from the board?
You referred to the issue of federal registry within that National Historical Registry?
Yes, this property is not a National Register property. There is an effort in that section of Jeffries Point to create a National Register district. I know that's in the very early stages of that. That's one of the issues we did hear as to a reason to oppose this project, is because it would not be consistent with the design of the National Register. We certainly feel that the preservation of what we're doing with the architecture in this building would certainly go towards that effort and towards that aim. And we feel that, part of what we're trying to do here is preserve what exists based upon some of those concerns.
I understand that that's still hypothetical and that it may or may not happen, but based on your understanding of if it did happen, would this design be consistent with the requirements?
Yes. So National Register would have no jurisdiction or control over the design of the building at all. It's simply it's a designation, more or less. There's no restriction that's administered through the Landmarks Commission or any preservation easements or covenants. It's simply a designation in a National Register. There is certainly some merit to having that in the community. We don't feel that this would have any impact on that at all, and we certainly wouldn't object to inclusion with that if that were to occur in the future.
And are any of these units going to be handicapped accessible?
There is direct access to Unit 1 from the rear level access. It does have an extra story level below, so it would be partially, but future adaptations would be made to the stair, a lifter, so to get fully
That just
accessible.
answers the letter, doesn't it? I mean, that unit is accessible on grade, but then there's a stair.
Right.
So you can get into.
Right, it's not fully compliant.
So I guess it would be fully compliant but adaptable in the future, that there's enough change later. So.
Exactly.
And so there's living space in the basement?
Yes, there's a partial part of the basement is a bedroom or bonus space.
And what's the floor to ceiling height there?
Would be proposed 8'6".
Okay. Any other questions from the board? Is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal?
Madam Chair, members of the board, John Allison, Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services, on behalf of Jesus Garcia, we'd like to go on record in support. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairman, members of the board. My name's Mario Marauda, live at 238 Webster Street, lifelong resident, third of 5 generations, and we fully support the project.
Is anybody here to speak in opposition?
Madam Chairman, members of the board, I'm Mary Cole from 251 Webster. I'm speaking on behalf of the Jeffers Point Neighborhood Association, for which I serve as the vice chair. This proposal came before us. It was voted on March 12th. 15 voted in support and 18 voted in opposition. Those in favor appreciated the retention of the existing structure and the design of the addition. Those opposed feel that the proposed building is just too large and out of character for the neighborhood, as evidenced by the floor area ratio, the height, the setback, and other violations. Please note that this building is located in an existing neighborhood design overlay district. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Dan Bailey. I live at 177 Webster Street. And while I appreciate the effort to retain the existing townhouse in this project, I'm concerned with the overall size and scope of the proposed addition. This is one of the best preserved Victorian townhouses in the neighborhood. It's a beautifully maintained building. As was mentioned, it's located in a design overlay district, and it's been found eligible for the National Register by the Massachusetts Historical Commission. The proposed addition more than doubles the size of the building. In fact, it's about 150% larger than the existing building and will overwhelm the existing architecture, permanently altering the proportions, massing, scale, and roof line of the building and compromising the historic character, not just of the building itself, but of the entire block. It's located prominently at a turn in Webster Street, which means that the side elevations and the entire proposed addition will be highly visible from the street. The Imagine Boston 2030 plan calls for development that matches the scale and character of its surroundings, and in this case, this block of Webster Street is made up almost entirely of 2- and 3-family homes that are 2.5 and 3 stories high. This proposal doesn't align with that character. And finally, doesn't seem to be evidence here that the legal requirements for zoning relief have been met. This is a sizable lot with an existing house that's been in use for 150 years. Doesn't seem to be any unique hardship here. And the proposal is not in harmony with the purpose and intent of the zoning code. Article 53 expressly prohibits adding living space on top of existing residential structures in a way that alters the roof line. And the design overlay district is designed to protect the scale and concentration of historic buildings in the area, and both of these provisions in the code exist precisely to prevent this kind of incongruous addition to historic buildings. And simply relying on BPDA design review after zoning relief has been granted is, I'm afraid, inadequate in this case to address these design concerns. Once the zoning relief is in place, the massing and size of the addition will be set, and design review will result in superficial changes. Thank you.
There's a lot that has been covered by the two people before you, so please put your name and address on the record and give us new information.
Absolutely. My name is Cindy Baxter. I live at 539A Sumner Street. Two specific points I'd like to bring up. Inappropriate size and massing for the neighborhood. I am among the majority of neighbors who voted against this proposal. The second point I would like to bring up, so the first point is it's just overwhelming, extremely overwhelming for the neighborhood, not characteristic. Second and last point I'd like to bring up is regarding precedent setting that is eroding the zoning code. I know Mr. Linz has mentioned that it's consistent with the neighborhood, it's in precedent with the neighborhood. However, when he presents to us as a neighborhood, he reassures us that new buildings or a building one by one does not set a precedent. However, it seems to. I'm concerned about that as a resident, and I'm concerned about it for our future. East Boston is an amazing neighborhood. It's a treasure. Thank you.
Madam Chairman and the board, my name is Bill Zarella, and I am the owner of the adjacent property.
The address, please?
The 222 Webster Street.
Okay.
Everybody's talking about the historic nature of our neighborhood, and my building is one of the more prominent buildings in the neighborhood. It was built in 1830. It used to be a Boston Public Library branch, and now it's a single residence. And this building, as has been said, is gigantic for that lot. The lot line between the proposal and mine is 0. They're extending their driveway or right to the lot line. The other side of the building is 1 foot. The rear, I don't know if anybody took this into consideration, but the rear of all of our properties is an old stone and masonry retaining wall. I think that this addition and the parking and all that stuff, I don't know if anybody has thought what this is going to do to that retaining wall, and that definitely affects my property.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Ron Stoya, 183 Webster Street, East Boston. I live a little bit further down the street from this property. It seems to me, living in this neighborhood for quite a while, that the attempt has been to squeeze more and more building into smaller and smaller areas, which is exactly what this is doing. And you'll probably be hearing more about that in the next coming weeks when other people try to do that. You take a small lot and you just overbuild it. That's happening over and over again in East Boston, and that's what's happening here, so I'd ask you to vote against it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything in response, Councilor?
Briefly, I think we heard from a few neighbors. I would point out that they are somewhat distant from this property, and I think it's important, based upon when a butter brings up context as a reason for objecting to a proposal, that they understand the context. Mr. Stoya, Mr. Bailey, I'm pretty familiar where they live. They live in a 5-story building just further up Webster Street. So by way of context, 5-story buildings do exist along that portion of Webster Street. Ms. Baxter, very familiar with her property. I permitted it myself. That's a 4-story building located on a 2,000 square foot lot with a density that's much greater than what we're actually proposing here. Not that that is a reason for the board to support it, but I think by them bringing to...
Precedents that you've created in the neighborhood
I
here.
apologize. But I will say that it's important, again, by way of context, that these buildings do exist in this neighborhood. Some older, some newer, but I would suggest that a 3-story or 2-story building is not simply the makeup of the entire portion of Webster Street. It's certainly that section of Jeffrey's Point.
Okay. Given that information, may I have any last questions, and then may I have a motion, please?
Make a motion to approve with continued BPDA design review.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries with that proviso.
Calling the next case, calling BOA 796-542, 179 London Street. This is an erected addition and change occupancy from a 3 to 4-unit residential dwelling. The violation is Article 25, Section 9, Section 5, flood hazard districts, Article 53, Section 8, 4-family is forbidden, Article 53, Section 52, roof structure restriction, Article 53, Section 56, off-street parking and loading requirements, Article 53, Section 9, additional lot area is insufficient, Article 53, Section 9, the floor area ratio is excessive, Article 53, Section 9, the building height is excessive in stories, Article 53, Section 9, the building height is excessive in feet, Article 53, Section 9, usable open space is insufficient, Article 53, Section 9, the front yard is insufficient. Article 53, side yard is insufficient. And Article 53, Section 9, the rear yard is insufficient. Name and address for the record, please.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. Richard Lins, 245 Sumner Street, East Boston. On behalf of the petitioner, with me is Jason Deeb, is the owner of this particular property and has owned it for close to a decade and maintained it for that period of time. As time has gone on, Mr. Deeb understands that this building is in need of some upgrades and certainly a lot more maintenance to continue with this operation of this existing building. He's made the decision to do a complete rehabilitation of the building, including upgrades to all of the systems and life safety for the building. As the Secretary indicated, one of the violations certainly concerns flood hazard district, and to look at this building very similar to the way this board looked at a building further up the street at its last meeting. This probably would not qualify for any additional space in the basement based upon flood hazard. So in looking at this and understanding the amount of investment that's necessary, the proposal is to put a vertical addition above and change the occupancy to 4 units total.
Utilities are still proposed for the basement. And
I
is
believe-
that allowed in a flood hazard zone?
So I think that with current conditions, they're grandfathered. I think that there's probably some adjustments that will have to occur in the basement based upon where we're at with flood hazard, but certainly with the base flood elevation being where it is, no livable space would be permitted in the basement. So vertical is the only option at this point. So we did have the opportunity to present this to the neighborhood. One of the reasons we're here on deferral is there is a new community group that has been formed for this neighborhood. We were asked to consider a deferral at the last hearing in order to make a presentation to them. Unfortunately, they've not formulated their bylaws or their voting procedure yet, so we're unable to make that presentation. I know that continued deferrals of these is probably not favored by the board, so we wanted to proceed today. We do recognize that that community group is getting organized, and we certainly understand some of the concerns based upon the abutters meeting that we heard. Chief among those concerns were twofold. One, the rear stairwell that comes off the back portion of this building, the orientation of that seemed to have an impact on a neighbor further up the street. We've agreed through the design review process to modify that stairwell and to ensure that that's not impacting any of his view. The second issue was any consideration on roof deck. Mr. Deeb is fine without including a roof deck on this building simply because of the proposed addition that he has. There's no roof deck being proposed above that level.
Do these plans reflect the stairwell issue?
They show the stairwell, I believe, on the left side of the building. We could certainly slide that over to the right, and we think the line of view would be affected positively based upon that. We've made that commitment through the community process. Because this is a pre-existing non-conforming, dimensionally non-conforming structure, it would be conforming use-wise. It is in the 3F 2000 district. Some of the violations that we're incurring are based upon simply the existing non-conformities that we incur. The largest of the relief that we need involves the use changing from a 3 to a 4 family would be a multifamily use. I would submit that there are numerous multifamilies, including a number of them located just further down London Street as you get closer to Central Square, so this is not an unusual use for this area. The height of the building would be increased. However, we are setting that 4th level back to keep the uniformity of the triple deckers along that portion of London Street. That is something that, again, we heard through the community process and something that we've committed to from a design standpoint based upon those comments. The floor area ratio would be increased based upon the amount of square footage that we're proposing with the additional unit, as well as the requirement for an additional parking space because there is no parking presently for the 3 units. This would require 1 additional parking space, and we're requesting a variance for that. I'm happy to answer any questions.
So the only relief that you do not need is for roof structure.
I'm sorry?
The only relief you do not need is for roof structure.
No, we would need it for height and stories.
For height, okay.
Yep.
Well, you would need it for height, but not the roof structure, the roof deck, in other words.
Right, so we're not requesting a roof deck.
And are any of these units going to be handicapped accessible or ADA accessible?
So I believe that we have to make at least one of them adaptable based upon the amount of renovations we're doing, and architect assures us that we can make an adaptable unit.
Okay. How are the plans, Mr. Pisani?
Drawings are adequate.
Excuse me, Madam Chair.
Any questions from the board? Is anybody here to speak in support? Is anybody here to speak in opposition?
I just want to speak. This is Judy Evans, City Councilor, Lydia Edwards' office. The council got these signatures this morning, so she wanted it to be part of the record. And she's just requested one more.
Okay. And Judy, what are you submitting? Approvals, oppositions? What are you submitting? Oppositions. And what are the issues? Okay. Okay. So you're requesting a deferral, in other words? Okay.
Is this with the new group that hasn't been formed yet?
No.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the board, John Allison, Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services, on behalf of Jesus Garcia, we would like to go on record in support.
Thank you. Is anybody else here to speak in support? Is anybody here to speak in opposition?
Can I see that?
Okay, based on the request and the testimony, may I have a motion, please?
Go ahead, Mark.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries with that proviso.
Thank you very much. And we will continue the dialogue with the neighborhood. I know that they're
Absolutely,
getting formed, but
absolutely. Keep,
he's been a neighbor there for some time. He knows who they all are, so have no problem working with them.
Case calling BOA 754-021, 13 Concord Square. Within the private garden, adding a short retaining wall and backfill to create 2 parking spaces. The violations, Article 64, Section 9, usable open space is insufficient. Article 64, Section 36, off-street parking, design, size, access and drive, maneuverability. Name and address for the record, please.
Yes, my name is Hani Hassoun, 13 Concord Square, owner of 13 Concord Square. This is Yervan Nahikian, who's architect and friend. The contractor could not make it because he is sick.
Okay, so tell us, why were you deferred the last time?
Sorry?
Why were you deferred the last time?
Okay, the last time we came in front of the board and we were deferred because there was a difference between us and the neighbors.
What was the difference?
Yeah, the difference was pertaining to a city light pole that we had asked the city to move and to locate in the property line. So there was a difference between what the neighbor wanted and what we wanted. Since that time, we have come to an agreement between us and the neighbor. We have considered many different propositions. One of them would be to put the light pole on the other side of the street on an existing pole. But finally, as of 3 days ago, we have agreed to move the pole to the location indicated by street lighting division, and they put a mark 3 days ago on the floor. And last night I agreed, and we all agreed with the neighbors that the pole will be moved to our side of the city line.
Okay, so tell us now. Let's go back and look at these plans and tell us exactly what you're proposing.
So what we're proposing is to build 2 parking lots, exactly like everyone else in the 49 townhouses that border this alley. So we have two parking lots. There is a city pole that we had asked way back.
You're proposing 2 parking spaces.
Correct.
What are the dimensions of the parking spaces?
It's 8 feet and 8 feet.
8 by...
As shown on the 8 feet dimension by 16.
8 by 16 feet? Okay. Okay. And so that would come directly up to the rear property line.
In fact, the limit of the parking is in line with the neighbor's parking. So the fence will be in continuation of the neighbor's fence.
Okay. And how tall is that fence?
The fence is going to be 6 feet.
Okay, how are the plans, Mr. Bazzani?
The drawings are adequate.
Any questions from the
Bob,
board?
have you seen the size of that?
Madam Chair, members of the board, Bob DeVico, Boston Transportation Department. These parking spaces will be in a public alley, and they're only 16 foot in length. And I'm just afraid that they're going to overhang the public way. If it's possible, if they can make them a little bit longer, it could work, but at 16 feet, these are very, very short, and the public alley is very narrow to begin with. And I'm just afraid there might be an overhang of the public way since they're so short.
So what do you suggest, 20 feet?
Make it longer.
Is it 20 feet?
Yes.
Okay.
But wait, this is the dimension of all the parking in the back alley.
Regardless, we just look at each case independently.
If I have a word. Meanwhile, we have put the retaining wall already at that location.
Well, you did that at your own risk before getting the approval of this board for your parking. So just let that be for now. Any other questions from the board? Is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal? Is anybody speaking in opposition?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is Faisal Sharif with the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. We would ask the board to deny this application without prejudice. and for the applicants to reapply. There is an issue around that city pole. Street Lighting has requested that that pole be moved to the location that they approved it at, which is highlighted in the photos that were submitted to you guys. The pole has not been relocated since. The point of the deferral originally was to have that pole moved, to have new plans drawn up which shows the maneuverability and access based on the new pole location, and to be able to discuss that with the neighbors. That has not happened. It's been incredibly difficult getting the applicants to communicate with the neighbors, and we don't have faith that if the board approves the 2 parking spaces, that will actually happen. And then there's also a lot of concern about maneuverability. Since the pole was moved into the location that was not approved by the city, there's been a lot of issues with the neighbors dinging their cars right up against that pole. We also agree with BTD in terms of there's real concerns about design, maneuverability, and access in that public way. Thank you.
Is anybody else here to speak in opposition? May I have a motion, please?
I'd like to make a motion for denial without prejudice.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Sounds like you still have work to do. We'll see you when you reapply.
The next case, calling BOA 793-533, 49 Copeland Street. This is to extend living space from the first floor to the basement and install new stairs from the first floor to the basement, and install a 20 by 30 basement window for an emergency escape from the dwelling unit. The violation is Article 50, Section 29. The floor-to-area ratio is excessive. Name and address for the record, please.
My name is Douglas Vaughn, representing the homeowner who lives in the first floor on that subject address, 49 Copeland Street.
So tell us, why were you deferred the last time?
Mr. Pisani raised a couple, one is ceiling height, which is 7 feet, and the second thing is double stairway was confusing, yes. I did update it, so I brought it in updated plans in 2 pages, or in a rather 1 page. So I hope still it's in the file that I went through with planning examiner ISD, Mark Joseph.
Okay, so just let me get this clear. So the proposal is to extend living space from the first floor to the basement, and so that's showed, and these are the revised drawings?
Yeah, but
And it
it
shows-
should be in the file, but yeah, I brought it in, updated, yellow highlighted for you.
Okay. And this is a 2-family or a 1-family?
3-family.
Pardon?
3-family.
It's a 3-family? Okay, how are the plans, Mr. Pisani?
The access to the basement has been clarified as correctly off the ground floor unit. So that is excellent. Thank you.
And what is the ceiling height under the revised?
It is rolling is highlighted as of now, 7 feet in suspended ceiling.
So you have 7 feet ceiling, okay? Wait, I'm trying, so this is the as-built proposed basement plan? Is that what we're looking at?
Yes.
Okay. And so what is the connection from the first floor to the basement, directly into the unit?
Yes, through the rear stairway within the dwelling of hers. So she has a control. She lives in the first floor, and she goes down to laundry and basement, and she's a grandmother with her husband.
And now I just want to know how
Okay.
this access works. So I'm looking at the
Through the
drawings.
rear stairway within her dwelling unit with, right.
And then, so she goes in this door off of the foyer in there.
That's all her dwelling territory over her apartment from upstairs.
Mr. Pisani, can you explain the
Yes.
electric meters? The cabinet for the electric meters?
No, I can't explain that because that means that all the meters are within the dwelling unit, which they should not be. However, that could be changed. There's a mechanical room that has access from the public stair. So why can't those electric meters be moved to that mechanical? They can be.
We'll do that for that building code review if the zoning approves first, because we are not appealing building code issues yet, only for the zoning. So if you wrote it in that condition will certainly go through the planning examiners.
Right.
with those arrangements.
Right, so that you realize that when we take a look at a zoning issue, and
I understand.
there is a obvious building code issue that
Right.
sometimes colors what our decision may be. There is a way around it. So, Madam Chair, again, there is a way around the removal of the electric meters out of the unit, and they could put it in the common mechanical room.
So the common mechanical room is marked as such, but what are the gas meters in the closet? Is that part of the mechanical room? I guess I'm still having a hard time understanding this.
Well, I mean, again, it's a little bit of a trek, but one can move the gas meters also.
Yeah, we will.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
We'll go through the building code review with the planning examiners.
Any other questions from the board? Mr. Bazzani?
No, I mean, the zoning issues have been clarified by clear access to the basement from the first unit, and restricted access from the first unit.
Is there a possibility of this being converted into a separate unit from the way the plan is laid out?
No, she can speak for
I'm
herself.
asking Mr. Bazzani.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Bazzani? There's definite external access.
Well, I mean, I think the reality is there are always those kinds of possibilities, but it's not what is shown here, and it would be a major zoning violation because that would increase the number of units.
Yep. Okay. Is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal?
Madam Chair, members of the board, Sana Mullen from Councilor Kim Janey's office, and we'd like to go on the record in support. They also have the support of the Roxbury Path Forward Neighborhood Association.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. Joshua McFadden, Mayor's Office, Neighborhood Services. I'd like to go on support as well.
Thank you. Is anybody here to speak in opposition? May I have a motion, please?
To make a motion to grant the zoning relief requested, but I'm going to provide so that it's very clear that no building code relief is to be provided.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries with that proviso.
Thank you.
Calling the next case, calling BOA 772-648, 46 Hitchborn Street. This seeking to combine 3 existing lots into one parcel of 15,253 square feet. Also to demolish the 3 existing structures and erect a 5-story residential building with 46 units and 50 parking vehicles. The violations, Article 51, Section 19. The multifamily dwelling is forbidden. Article 51, Section 19, accessory parking is forbidden. Article 51, Section 20, the floor-to-area ratio is excessive. Article 51, Section 20, the building height is excessive. Article 51, Section 20, the rear yard is insufficient. Article 51, Section 56, off-street parking is insufficient. And Article 51, Section 56, off-street loading is insufficient. Name and address for the record, please.
Madam Chair, members of the board, good morning. My name is Dan Toscano from Drago and Toscano LLP, attorneys at law. We're located at 15 Broad Street, Boston, Mass. 02109. I'm here representing Hitchborn Partners. To my far right is Joseph DeGangi, who's one of the principal partners of the Hitchborn Partners, and to my immediate right is James Christopher, representing RCA Architectural Firm, who did the drawings on the plans. We're seeking your approval today to erect a 6-story building, which is 46 condominium units. We were here before this board not too long ago. The matter was deferred to continue to work with the community and the direct abutters. We have worked with the community, in particular the BAIA, which has supported the project. We did resolve one of the last issues that was requested of us, and we come to an agreement, and they will anticipate their support today. They did vote in support. The other was our direct abutter at New Balance, which is directly behind our particular proposal, working with New Balance in particular, working on future infrastructure of the Guest Street extension. So make sure that we work together, make sure we do the Guest Street extension to alleviate any potential traffic in the area. So this project is 46 condominium units. It's made up of combination of units. There's 6 studios, there's 8 one-bedrooms, 7 one-bedroom pluses, 24 two-bedrooms, and 1 single 3-bedroom unit. They all have adequate size. The average size of the studios are 525 square feet. The one-bedrooms approximately 715 square feet. The one-bedroom plus approximately 815 square feet. All the 2 bedrooms are over 1,000 square feet of living space, and the 3-bedroom is approximately 1,300 square feet of space. We do have some violations, Madam Chair, and one just being in the Guest Street local industrial district, which is multifamily, is forbidden use. So we are adding the residential, so we're asking for relief that to add these condominium units in an area that has been, I guess, building, and there's more development here, and there's a more high demand for residential units, in particular home ownership. As for the parking, we are supplying 59 parking spaces for 46 units, which is a little more than 1. The requirement is 2 parking spots per unit, but we have sufficient parking for at least 1 per unit. But this is close to the new station, Boston Landing, and also walking distance and to other local public transportation. The FAR in this area is 2. Our proposed FAR is 3.26. Not out of character, looking at the Guest Street study that was conducted a few years ago, the FAR recommendation was about 1.25 to 3.25. So we're just slightly over, but we're at 3.25 for this project. The height of the requirements in this district is 45 feet. We are at 65.5 feet. This is a 6-story building, but the 6th floor is a community room on the roof. There's a community room which hosts a yoga room. There is a pool, there's outdoor patios, 13 private patios on the outdoor, provide sufficient open space for all the residents. Each of the units as well has all patios, so they have sufficient open space for each of the residential units. The last violation that we're seeking release for is the rear yard. The rear yard is 12-foot setback. We're proposing a 4-foot setback for this proposal. I'm happy to answer any questions. I can turn it over to Mr. Christopher, talk about the floor layout, parking on the basement level and ground level. He can talk about a little bit more of the floor plan.
So when you were deferred, what understandings did you come up with?
The understandings of work, so one of the biggest issues working with the community, whether, even though we're proposing that this would be condominium project, this was a condominium project, but they wanted a concern that it was going to be really home ownership. So we're proposing in our condo docs 50% home ownership in the condo docs. So we agreed that we put that in the condo docs. So I think that was this.
What exactly would it say in the condo docs?
We haven't really worked out the language, I'll be honest with you. I know this is an issue that's been going back and forth quite some time, but really haven't prepared our condo docs yet. So I don't know what language will be put in there, but the goal is to have 100% home ownership. That's why we created a lot of amenities in this building. There's plenty of storage. We restructured the units to have plenty of closet space, storage, the amenities, the community room, parking.
Is that versus investor properties? I mean, I guess you can't.
I think part of the concern, Madam Chair, would be subletting and that sort of stuff. The neighbors preferred that it would be owner-occupied. So we've committed to try to address that within the condo docs as best we can. But as Mr. Toscano mentioned, our goal is 100%.
Okay.
Right, well, I mean, as you all obviously know, that whatever you determine for the time of construction is also the question of what happens subsequently.
Correct, and at this point, the best we could say is that our intention is to keep it as highly owner-occupied as possible.
How many affordable units?
6.
6. What breakdown? Do you have a breakdown?
Do you know of the breakdown? I don't know
exactly what the IDP units are labeled on here.
I
Okay.
don't.
Yeah, I did notice some of them were labeled.
Some of them are labeled on the plans, Madam Chair.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions from the board? And how are the plans, Mr. Pizzani?
Drawings are adequate.
Is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal?
Madam Chair, members of the board, Warren O'Reilly, Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services, we would like to go on record in support. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. Daniel Polanco on behalf of Councilor Mark Siomo. I'd also like to go on record in support.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Annabelle Gomes from the Brighton Austin Improvement Association would like to go on record in support.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Minor Perez representing the Carpenters Union would like to go on record in support of this project.
Thank you. Is anybody here to speak in opposition? May I have a motion, please?
Make a motion to approve with continued BPDA design review and.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. You're all set.
Council, please continue to work with the neighbors if there are anything that comes up.
Thank you. Thank you.
Calling the next case on court remand, calling BOA 448-233, 11 Virginia Street. This was a change of occupancy as a single family, then build dormers, construct an addition and rear, install front and rear porches, reconstruct front entrance, build attached garage with office, over and renovate all floors. The violations, Article 65, Section 42, 65-42A, accessory buildings inside or rear yard. Article 65, dissolve Section 9, floor to area ratio is excessive. Article 65, front yard is insufficient. Article 65, side yard is insufficient. And Article 65, rear yard is insufficient. Name and address for the record, please.
Vargas da Silveira, 11 Virginia Street.
Okay, so these are updated plans?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So tell us what's happened since you were here last time?
So last time that we were here, we didn't have the plans. I guess it was lost somewhere. So I replaced it with the board, and I also brought a copy for you guys to look at. And basically, we have 5 violations. Article 6542-8, which requires the garage that we're proposing to be 4 feet off the side and 15 feet high. On the side, we're proposing 1 foot from the property line. In the rear side, 1 foot off the property line. In the height of the garage and office, about 20 feet.
I'm sorry, so side yard required is 4 feet, and you're proposing 1 foot?
1 foot off the property
Okay,
line.
how about rear yard?
Rear yard is 15 feet, we're proposing 1 foot. 20 feet, I'm sorry.
So rear yard, you're proposing 15 feet, and the requirement is 20?
No, the requirement's 20, we're proposing 1 foot off the property line.
This is rear yard?
Rear yard.
Okay.
The garage sits on a corner left side, so it's only one side and one part of the rear yard that it actually violates.
The FAR?
The FAR, no matter how we look at it, it was already passed, because the FAR in this, originally when we started the application was 0.4. It has changed the last couple of years to 0.5, and we're still, the building itself is existing non-conforming. It's just actually picking up more violation on top already the violation that existed.
So what's the final proposed FAR?
Final proposed FAR would be 4,707 for the main building. For the garage, it's roughly about 800 square feet, 21 by 40, and the office up above is roughly about 600 square feet, 21 by...
So might shoot it up to 0.8?
It brings it up to roughly around 0.8.
Okay. And the required is
0.5, correct.
Okay. And then what's Article 65-42?
That was the one that we went over. There's only one Article 6542, that was the garage that we just went over. Then we have Article 65, Section 9, which covers the other 3, which is the side yards and the frontage, the back. It picks up pretty much all within that same realm. So the next 4 violation is essentially the same violation, which is 65, Section 9, which gives you the 15 foot that's required on the side, and I'm not sure actually on the side of the building itself I have enough requirement as far as because on one side, on the right-hand side, we have 15 feet. That's enough to pass the requirement. On the right-hand side, we have 26 feet. That does. The front yard, however, it's existing non-conforming also on the existing porch, but we like to stretch it out to be like the rest of the neighborhood. So that puts us into a violation also, and we're asking for variance on that.
So this is a 3-car garage?
Three-car garage,
And
yes.
the second floor is a home office. What's the size? How many square foot did you say? Was it 800 square feet?
600 square feet.
600 square feet?
It is roughly 21 and a half by 20. The office is 21 and a half by
28.
28.
And then it has a kitchenette in there. It has a bathroom.
Yeah, it's just a sink and a bathroom, yes.
Okay, and then it has an attached deck.
Attached deck to the house, correct.
Okay, and what's the home office used for?
The office is primarily, I'm a small contractor, and the office is essential for me. Having 10 children in the house, it's kind of hard to keep a separate office for the business and then the home itself. When a pencil...
Tell us about the home. How many units in the home?
It's only a single family, basement, first floor, second, and third. So the third level, we use it exclusively for class because my wife actually teaches all the kids at home. The second is bedroom, and first floor is pretty much all open, kitchen, living room, dining room, where, you know, the kids just run around.
And the basement?
Basement, there's rooms there too.
There's rooms, bedrooms?
Yes, bedrooms.
What's the floor to ceiling height in the bedrooms?
Probably about
basement?
8'2".
8'2",
Yeah.
okay. How are the plans, Mr. Pizzani?
The drawings are adequate.
Any questions from the board?
I want to make sure I get the same.
Is anybody here to speak in support?
Madam Chair, members of the board, John Allison, Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services, on behalf of Flavio De Vega, we'd like to go on record in support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Mark Cabral, owner of 16 Virginia Street, directly across the street from number 11. I am here in support of Vargas's application. Thank you.
My name is Joao Cardoso. I have a business on 149 Stoughton Street, right around the corner. I'm here to support Vargas.
Good afternoon. My name is William Kibadia. I'm the owner of 15 Virginia Street. I'm here to support.
Thank you. Is anybody here to speak in opposition? Can you please leave everything there and yes. So please summarize one more time what your concerns are.
Madam Chair, members of the board, I'm Joanne Tuller. I live at 6 Monadnock Street. And I'm speaking on my own behalf. I'm also speaking on behalf of 8 Monadnock Street, which is owned by a trust. My mother is the sole trustee, and I am the sole beneficiary. And on behalf of the owner of 12 Monadnock Street, who is John Krasinowski, he health prevents him from being here, and he has given me a letter empowering me to speak to him. And everything I'm going to say is, documented is in the packets that I'm giving you.
Now, we have the letter, so you don't need to read to us, but just summarize, okay?
Yes, I'm going to summarize the points that I'm making in my longer statement and in the documents that I've given you. First, so we're very concerned about the size and the placement of the proposed garage and office building. I have no objection, nor does Mr. Krasinowski, to the porches and the other additions that to the main house that Mr. Dusty-Flora wants to build. But and I'll say more about the reasons that why we're concerned about the other building later. But first of all, I want to say there's no special circumstances or conditions, as is required, to justify a variance under the code. The lot size for 11 Virginia is 8,000 square feet. That's bigger than 86% of the lots on Virginia and Monadnock Street. The lot is completely rectangular, and the house itself is also of a typical size for single-family houses in the neighborhood as it is. And Mr. Da Silveira is not asking for, he's not asking for a variance because of any special circumstances about the property itself. He could add existing square footage to the existing house without violating the boundary issues, although he'd still need a variance for the FAR, I think. I did put in a recalculation of the FAR, but it sounds like Vargas actually recalculated it, which I very much appreciate because the original plans that I saw had a much lower FAR on it. As far as reasonable use, which is also required, that the variance be necessary for reasonable use, Mr. Da Silveira and his family have been living in the house since January of last year, so that's 16 months. And the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Division of Corporations also lists his office as being, or his business as being located in that property since the middle of last year. So he's making reasonable use of the house without the additional garage and office outside the house. Most houses on Virginia and Monadnock, 73% of the houses on Virginia and Monadnock streets have no garage at all. And those that do, there's one 4-car garage that's a single story and a flat roof. And there are, the others are all 1 or 2-car garages with low roofs. There's also a few original carriage houses, but none of those would hold more than 2 cars, I believe. And I don't know of any separate office spaces in the neighborhood. So not having a garage and not having an office separate from your house is the normal state for our neighborhood. So it's difficult to me to call it a reasonable to call it a substantial hardship. Third, and most important, the proposed building would be injurious to Mr. Krasnowski's property and to my family's property at 8 Monadnock. I have statements there from a civil engineering firm saying that there would be damage from the digging. Mr. Da Silveira has not provided. He actually, what he wants to do, which was not on the plans that I saw, I don't know if it's on the plans now, is actually build a retaining wall all the way across the back of his property. So not just where the building would be, but all the way across. And the civil engineer thought that there aren't plans for how he plans to do the construction of the footings for that wall. And the civil engineer felt that there would be, stated that there would be damage from the digging, but you're going to dig a foot from the property line, the damage is going to go over the line, and also possibly from water runoff, because there's no indication in the plans about what he plans to do about that.
I think the only thing that's in front of us is to change the occupancy, build the dormers, construct the rear addition, construct the porches, the front and rear porches, and build the garage with the office over it. That's really what's in front of us.
Yes, and it's the garage and the office that I'm concerned about, because that garage, although it's a 3-car garage, is actually the size of a 4-car garage. It would be 40 feet long, and from the back side, which is the Monadnock Street side, Virginia and Monadnock are extremely sloped from one to the other. There's quite a grade there, and so from the back it would be over 2 stories high, about 2.5 stories high. Mr. Krasnowski's property, if he stands at his backyard or in his windows, would be about 50% right in the center of his view would be blocked, and about 25% of the view looking upward, but again, it would be the view right in front of him that's blocked. So we expect soil damage, we expect runoff, we expect view blockage, and there's also a shading analysis that shows considerable shading to both the 8 Virginia Street and the 12 Virginia Street properties. We wrote to Mr. Da Silveira when this came up before, and we suggested him that we could talk about a compromise, that we were open to a compromise. The neighborhood people who have signed an opposition, and myself, and Mr. Krasnowski, and my mother, the trustee, would all be open to a smaller garage, say like a 1-story, 2 or maybe even 3-car garage, something like that, but not something that's this big and this close to the property line. It's not necessary for the purpose. It doesn't meet the criteria for the zoning, as I've explained. In terms of the neighborhood, the last thing in the packet is a statement of signers, and Mr. Da Silveira has said in the past that most of the neighborhood supports me, and he does have about 50 people who signed. Once you actually take out people who have moved and other things, there are 48 neighbors who signed in favor and 35 who are opposed. But if you look at the actual number of properties represented, because the ones in favor, in some cases, were several people from a household or from a building, there's 30 properties represented in support, 34 against. And of the immediate abutters, there's 1 for and 2 against, and then 2 have not expressed an opinion. One of them is Victory Programs, which is, by policy, I think, doesn't take a position on these things, and there's a letter that documents that. And there's other, if you're talking about property owners in the neighborhood, almost all of whom are owner-occupiers. There were 22 in support and 32 opposed. So that's basically, again, a summary is that I don't believe that this meets the requirements for a variance, nor do I believe it's necessary, and there's considerable neighborhood opposition, particularly from the people who, on the Monadnock Street side, who would be seeing sort of the bulk of the building. From the Virginia Street side, it's kind of behind and not as visible.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The person in the rear, are you speaking in support or in opposition?
In support. I would just like to add to...
Okay, just make it brief.
There is a precedent on, my name is Mark Cabral, owner of 16 Virginia Street, across the street from number 11. There is a precedent of multi-car garages on Virginia Street.
So the address, your address is 16?
16, correct. It's directly in front of 11.
Yeah.
So my property has 5 garages that on both rear and side are within 1 foot of the property line, and probably extends about 60 feet long.
Hold on, there's just no wild conversations going on here, okay? Okay. So finish your statement and then let's move.
I would just like to comment on her comment that it's not a precedent on Virginia Street where it is. Thank you.
And the last time this case was before us and we heard it, we approved it with BRA design review?
Yes. That's correct.
Yes.
Actually, let's go to street approval, Madam Chair.
So board, there's a lot of stuff that she says that are not true.
Hold on. So this is a rehearing. We've heard everything. You've made your case, as is the usual case for any hearing. We heard people speak in support, people in opposition. Now let's make a decision. May I have a motion, please?
Make a motion to approve with continued BPDA design review.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries with that proviso.
We go to the next case, a call of the chair, calling BOA 732-946, 38 P Street. The petitioner seeks the determination that Inspectional Service Department erred in issuing that permit.
Thank you, board.
Name and address for the record, please.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Nick Zafarakis from Nick Zafarakis, 824 East 3rd Street, South Boston, Mass., trustee.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Don Weiss with the Dane Torpy firm, 745 Atlantic Avenue, here on behalf of Ryan Hunt, principal of Sun Property.
And Sun Property owns 38 PC?
That's correct.
Street? Okay, so we are here to decide whether the ISD, the petitioner seeks a determination that ISD erred in issuing the permit. The permit was issued as an allowed use. As is our procedure, we send our we send whatever we have on the record and in the files to the to legal, and rely on their input to us in making a decision. So I would paraphrase this this correspondence, which is privileged and confidential, and read what I think is something that we can agree on. That there is no evidence that ISD erred in granting permit number ERT 705883, authorizing the construction of an 8-unit residential structure. Okay, that's part one. Part two is something that we need to put on the record, is that there is an inconsistency between the permit and the plans that were actually approved. So we are directing ISD to correct the permit so that it reflects what was actually been permitted, so that we can ensure that the plans related to the permit are free of error. Furthermore, in order to avoid future confusion related to the project, the board directs that when ISD issues a certificate of occupancy for this building, the certificate specify what number of bedrooms are permitted for each of the 8 units. Is that clear?
That's very clear. We understand.
Okay. May I have a motion then to verify what I've just read for the record?
Motion to concur with the recommendation of the law department.
Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank you very much.
for pursuing it.
Final thing is the Thursday, April 26th, mini zoning board at 1010 Mass Ave. The hearings are at 5 p.m. Calling the first case, BOA 803-413-80 St. Stephen Street, was approved. This was to construct a roof deck and head house and create access to Unit 2 via the roof. Case BOA 796-650-160 K Street was approved with full interior renovation of existing two-family dwelling. Case BOA 808-179-197 to 203 Humboldt Avenue was approved for this petitioner only to change the occupancy from a restaurant with 9 seats and takeout. BOA 794-930-33 Robinson Street was approved with BPDA. This converted one single family into a two-family. Case BOA 793-536 was approved with removing an existing side deck and repair wood shingle siding at the same and propose a new rear deck. Violation, case BOA 807-091-13 Thompson Street was approved with BPDA. Confirm occupancy as a one-family, construct new dormers in the rear addition. BOA 794-261-60 Catherine Street was approved with BPDA, adding a shed dormer to match the existing dormer on the opposite side. Case BOA 799-089-2-16 Belgrade. This was approved with BPDA. Change occupancy to add a bar in existing premises. Case BOA 815-003-156 Church Street was approved. This will erect an addition over a sun porch and install a dormer. And the last case, case BOA 785-625-41 Tolman Street was approved. This was an added rear addition and enclosed sunroom. We need a motion to approve the hearings of the subcommittee.
Concur with the recommendation.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The meeting is now adjourned.
We have some signing here.
Thank you.